Yeah. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Geeky Geezers. I'm your host, Aged Boomer. This is my co-host, PaPa Pacelli.
Hello, hello. Happy Sunday night.
Are you eating something? What are you eating?
Yeah, that's why I was late getting to the
You
green
eating your
room.
dinner?
Yes, I am, as a
Oh
matter of
my
fact.
goodness! Do you
It's
need to take 5? I'll say hi to the chat. What are you scarfing down? I'm curious
a
now.
salami sandwich.
Oh, okay. I used to get those in school lunches. I used to do
My
those.
mom used to send me to school with a salami sandwich in my brown paper bag. That was just my favorite. Absolutely.
Yes, I
I'm
remember
getting
that.
fancy now. Now I do like pepper cheese and a little cream cheese on
Sounds fancy.
sourdough bread. Yeah, exactly.
Good evening, oh glorious geezers. Have a great show tonight, my friends. What do you mean by glorious geezers? I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Thank you, Big Al. Hello, the chat. Welcome, Rise and Talker. I have watched the first episode of Netflix's One Piece, and I'm pleased to report it's actually pretty entertaining and chock full of Easter eggs for longtime fans. Will this streak of good fortune continue, or will it go bust? Who knows? I've heard good things about the Netflix One Piece series. Oddly enough, I never watched the anime, the cartoon, the anime show. I know it has a huge following. I think the crux of it was this is a pirate series, correct? About young
I think
pirates
so. Yeah.
and like a. I could be wrong. I haven't seen the show, but I don't think it takes place in our history, but like on an alternative Earth or maybe another world. But you'll still recognize things from our planet too, like the whole pirate thing and everything. I don't know. I could be wrong. The Japanese will often in anime. Sometimes animes take place on Earth. Sometimes they take place in like alternative worlds and such. And it's
Yeah. And from what I've
yeah,
heard, this One Piece, apparently the creator is very much involved in it, and he is
yes,
not taking any crap. He saw what happened with
Cowboy Bebop.
Cowboy Bebop and
The,
said,
the
"Yeah, no,
the unfortunate thing, the creator of that had no control over it because
yeah,
it wasn't ever owned by him. He was hired by Bandai to adapt this manga and create an anime
yeah,
series that would have vehicles in it so they could sell models. And then he was able to do his own thing and created a minor masterpiece, or maybe a major masterpiece. But
mm,
trouble was, he really had no say in who got those rights and what happened to them. He was out of the loop because it's like be like if someone was hired on for let's say a property like Star Wars and makes a couple really good seasons about a Mandalorian and then
yeah,
people interfere and make it go to crap.
exactly right,
I mean that's
exactly
kind of
right."
how it is. So it's not the creator of Cowboy Bebop's fault it ended up that way. He
No,
you know
he even said, I don't know what this is, but it's not what I
he
created."
did all he could, but but again, it was out of his hands.
Yep.
Welcome, Rose Fire. Good to see you.
She's created a drinking game for us. Take a shot every time Aged Boomer gives an apocalyptic groan or Pacelli says, "Dumbass." We'll all be drunk by midnight. Maybe not a good game to play on a Sunday night if you got to go to work on Monday.
How dire are the news stories tonight? I don't know. I mean, it's more as Clownfish used to say, dismal Disney. But um, other than that, I don't know.
And
Um,
I did inject some toy news because we don't really get into toys too much,
you
and
could talk
some
about toys. I talk about
some of it's a
games.
little bit bizarre. Not bad news, but kind of weird. And I think our miscellaneous section is a mixed bag. Some reaffirmations of things we've talked about in the past, so we can point out, yep, we were right. We're not crazy, and some things to look forward to as well.
Yeah. Freshly made egg salad sandwich on a toasted bagel, iced coffee.
Oh,
My
that
idea of a
sounds
perfect lunch.
fancy.
That is an egg. I never had egg salad on an egg on a bagel. I might
Sure, I
have to
can
try
see
that
that. Yeah.
someday. My mom makes the best egg salad. That sounds like something a nerdy guy would say. Actually, never mind. No, but we have a deviled egg recipe in our family, and it doesn't use horseradish. It uses dry mustard.
Yep.
That's
Yep.
the way to go, not horseradish. And for some reason, whenever anybody else makes deviled eggs, I'm like, yeah, it's not quite up to par. But I do like I do like the way we make it in our family.
Yep. That's
Dry mustard.
that's
Yeah.
how we do it too. Is with the dry mustard,
Right.
some lemon juice,
I don't think we
mayo
use
and egg.
lemon juice. I think we use mayo and dry mustard.
Yeah.
Mayo's kind of odd because that comes from eggs as well, doesn't it? So yeah.
Yeah, exactly right.
Weird.
I mean, it's all egg. Oh, and you got to have some onion in there. I know some people use celery. I want onion in
I went to Bob Evans today.
there. I
Guess what
have
I
some
got?
mixed feelings about Bob Evans.
I did not do the biscuits and gravy today.
Okay.
I went off the off the rail a little bit. I got the caramel apple pancakes, and it came with eggs and
That actually
you
sounds
get
really
your
good.
side of meat, and you get some hash browns. They were okay. I thought they were a bit too sweet for me. Maybe I was in the more of the mood for savory, but I figure I'm always doing the biscuits and gravy. Let me get something else. This is seasonal. Let me try this, but I don't know. Anyway, let me say hi to the chat. Netters Network, welcome. I get a hi, sweetie. Troy gets a love of my life.
Yep, I
Let's
love
see
you too,
here.
Netter.
Egg salad. Yeah, egg salad's good stuff. I don't know if you can buy that at a deli or a grocery store if it's any good. I've
You
never
can, but it's
tried.
really always best fresh.
Yeah. Jesse Grotto, welcome. Let's see here though. But yeah, we have some news to talk
I like
about.
David Penzek tonight on Cooking with the Geeky Geezers.
I like tuna salad as well. Some people don't do tuna. I know that it's a thing. I guess it's like liverwurst for some people. I don't.
There
I
are some nights where Netter and we have cans of tuna,
yeah.
and sometimes we'll just pop open a can and eat it straight, like
It
a couple of cats.
It's funny that I know on YouTube they were advertising it that what was it called, the fresh catch tuna. I actually got some of that. Unfortunately, then the storm happened. I lost some of it, but I did try it, and it wasn't bad. It was really good, but almost felt too gourmet. Like I would feel like you can't make a tuna sandwich with this stuff. It's too fancy. Like it's an extra virgin olive oil, and it's
Yeah,
so I usually get the cheap stuff, the light tuna, bumblebee. I like
yep.
chicken at the sea actually, and you getting the mayo right is tricky though because you don't want to put too much or too little in. And then I use onion and celery. That's what I go for. And then toast some bread, lightly toasted. I don't like hard toasted bread.
Or
It's
you could
fun.
do it like the way Netter does it, where she really just warms the bread. She calls it toast. I just call it warm bread.
Well, as long as it holds the stuff. No, I
Exactly.
come from a household where like bread was left in the toaster too long. In fact, I think I read something somewhere where some guy thought the way you made toast was you toast it till it's black and then you scrape the black stuff off because that's how they did it in
Because
his
that's
family.
how he was so used to having it. Yeah,
Oh no,
absolutely.
lightly toasted is the best way to go. When you go to a restaurant, it's lightly toasted. It's not, you get a little bit of the brown on top, but not too much. That's
I'll be honest,
carcinogenic if you get too much
when it
stuff.
comes to toast for me, it really depends on what it is. If it's a sandwich, yeah, it's got to be a medium toast so it
Right,
holds whatever it is.
right.
If it's being laid down and like a gravy or something put over it, on a shingle, you want it to be really well toasted.
I've never done the what do you call it? Shit on a
Shit on a
shingle.
shingle if you ever served. Look, if you enjoy your biscuits and gravy, you would enjoy a shit on a shingle.
I might
It just
enjoy that.
means,
I'm scoffing at it, but if I tried it, I might actually enjoy it. Yeah.
yeah, look up a
Uh,
recipe. I mean, it's funny because the boys in the service, call it that, but it goes back a long, long way. That's survival food, man.
yep. Zootopia, welcome. Let's see. Hello, hail to deleted scenes. Welcome. He just had his show. He was talking about the whole Starfield controversy with Zaz, I believe.
Yeah,
You heard about that.
yeah.
I consider talking about that, but we got enough stuff to talk
We do
about.
have a lot.
It's
Yeah.
another shitty Bethesda game where I heard that it wasn't just about the pronouns; it was about other stuff in the game too,
Yep.
like being forced to interact with
It
characters.
always is.
Yeah,
It always is. They always focus on some ridiculous, unimportant point to make it seem like everybody is just, nitpicking. And it's like, no, there are some problems here, some legitimate things, and you're avoiding those by focusing on BS.
Yeah, this is killing the RPG genre, and the
It's killing
trouble is,
all-
even with certain Japanese RPGs, if that side gets their mitts in them, then they change the translations too.
right.
So far, I like what Bandai did with Elden Ring. They decided who's going to handle localization. George R. R. Martin. Yeah, that's what you do.
Yeah.
Get a famous writer to handle or get professional writers to handle your localization and take it away from, well,
Yeah.
people who don't get paid enough, so they end up inserting their politics into things. But there's also fresh homemade bread right out of the oven. You just want to wrap yourself in that bready goodness and take a nap. You know what's
You're right.
interesting? What was it? There's a channel. I forget what this guy's name is. I need to subscribe to him, where he goes through foods of yesteryear and he goes into the history of the peanut butter and jelly sandwich.
Yeah. Help us out, Big Al. It's
Yeah.
what's his name? Tasting History with Max someone or other.
It was interesting because he showed how he made a typical baked bread that you would have gotten like in a diner car on a train or something, and he actually made that fresh.
Yeah.
And then he had to slice, and he goes into how the breads, you didn't get used to get sliced bread. The whole thing, the best invention of sliced bread, that was a real saying because they had to come up with a bread slicing machine.
Right.
And bread companies were unsure about doing that because they figured the bread was going to spoil faster if you did that.
There is a reasonable concern there. Yeah, absolutely.
But it didn't matter because people ate the bread faster when it was sliced. So
Right.
they actually ended up selling more bread. So selling sliced bread ended up being a big thing. We figured out the origin of peanut butter and jelly. I mean, they used to do peanut butter sandwiches. The jelly got added in because of servicemen in World War II. The soldiers would get like a canister of something called grape aid. I think it was called that. And they would get like a bread and some peanut butter, and they started mixing them together and loved the taste. And I prefer jams to jellies myself when I do a PB&J.
We were literally just talking about deviled eggs and whatnot, and Max Miller, I think that's his name. He did one on he was trying to find the origin of deviled eggs, and I think he found one from like ancient Rome or something crazy like that.
Tasting History with Max Miller, fascinating channel. Okay, there we go. Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you, Rosefire. Oh, that's a neat channel, though, don't you think?
And real quick, I wanted to say hi to Leia Rose. Thank you so much for encouraging me on that video from Pops. He just dropped one today where he was interviewing me about my YouTube journey and how,
my goodness,
and how I've been struggling lately. Just wanted to get 3, 4, 5 more subscribers, and I'm literally losing subscribers daily.
Oh my goodness,
killing me. My morale is in the damn toilet.
Please, everyone who's listening, if you are subscribed to Troy, make sure you are subscribed. His link is in the description in the underneath, and please subscribe to Troy. He does great streams, especially the one on Friday night where he has a great co-host.
Yes, I do.
Okay, but no, seriously, make sure you're subscribed to him. Sometimes YouTube will knock you out, even if you think you're subscribed to somebody. It's happened to me.
Yeah.
So make sure you're subscribed, and when you do subscribe, watch a video of his. I mean, even if you have to put it on the background, for a little bit, just so YouTube can see that it's getting the view in.
And Lester is on his way home. Be careful getting home. Make sure you get home safe. But glad to hear that the emergency medical training went well. Good.
We're all so busy lately, aren't we? Okay. But what did I do today? I did schoolwork, I did stream prep, and I put together a piece of furniture for the house. So I did, and went to church and all that. And went to breakfast. So there you go, full day. But
I'm with you.
All right, but I thought we would start off with the good old days, right?
Yeah.
And I want to talk about the good old days of the movie critic.
I'll tell you what, back in the day, I was always usually pretty negative on the critics. I used to be like, well, if they don't like it, I'll probably like it, and vice versa. I got to be honest with you. Looking back with adult eyes, I didn't know how good we had it back then.
Here, my of course, the two critics that most people know the best, and I knew the best back, they were Siskel and Ebert. I think the original sneak previews had different critics on it though before Siskel and Ebert took over, but that was before my time. It's funny though, on YouTube, go ahead, you can find old episodes of Siskel and Ebert. It's funny watching their ones from the late 70s.
Yep.
Like I think I even found their Star Wars review on YouTube, like for the original Star Wars.
That's the one I always refer back to when I talk about a certain level of intellectual honesty, right? Where
Yes.
they had come out and given one review early on, and then some years later they came back and they're like, on revisiting it, I'm going to change my mind on this.
It's tricky because I notice with Roger Ebert, sometimes here's the problem with movies: thumbs up, thumbs down. Sometimes you can be on the fence for a while with a movie.
Yeah.
I remember with Donnie Darko, he was struggling. I think he gave it thumbs down, but he was struggling. When the director's cut came out later on, there was like another cut. I'll
Yeah.
give that version a thumbs up because it's
Yeah.
still interesting enough. This is why, even though he gave thumbs down to Army of Darkness, I suspect had Roger Ebert reviewed the fuller cut of that movie, I think he would have given that a thumbs up. Because
Yeah.
I think his complaints were resolved in the longer cut.
And I do have to agree that there are some movies where you watch them and you don't just go, man, that was terrible. You go, I don't know how I feel about that. And you do end up feeling like you have to watch it again and think it through. Maybe sometimes talk with other people about it. What did you get out of it? Help, if maybe someone else has a different perspective. Look, for crying out loud, you and I are still talking about Blade Runner and Blade Runner 20 whatever, and still debating it and hashing it out. I think at this point, though, I think we're both, we definitely give those thumbs up. We just have different interpretations of
It's funny. I think Gene Siskel liked the theatrical version. I think he said he liked the voiceovers. I think I heard him say that.
I agreed with him on that. And I know
disagree.
We are very much in the minority on that, but you got to understand, I love that whole pulp, noir feel to it. Although the one argument that I will accept against it is it definitely cements the whole debate. Is he a replicant? Is he not? Well, probably not if he's the guy, narrating the story. You also know that he survives to the end at least, because otherwise how the hell is he narrating, right?
Yeah. Anyway, let me see though. Someone mentioned Pauline Kael. Familiar with her?
No,
She was famous. She was a big deal movie critic in the 70s. Actually, Roger Avery brings her up often. Not I'm thinking of the guy that wrote. No, Bret Easton Ellis, not Roger Avery, brings him up. Brings her up a lot. But she got famous because she categorically hated Dirty Harry. Hated that movie.
Wow.
You should read her review of it. It is nasty. I think I brought it up on Birdman Stream when we did the review of that. And then they did Magnum Forces. Oh, I see. So you show us what actual fascist police officers would be like, and now it's all good. No, it isn't. You're just pandering. And she wasn't satisfied. Exactly. In the Deadpool, a female movie critic gets murdered by the serial killer in that, and they think that's like a knock at Pauline Kael.
I would not be surprised. That does seem fair, actually. But I think that we're talking about a time when just like, and I don't know, people could argue and say, this is just romanticizing the past, but I like to believe that the media, used to be more unbiased in the past, and definitely movie reviewers had no bias other than their own, personal, whether they liked it or not, and they would talk through those things, because there was this assumption that to provide a quality product, a quality service, they had to be honest and say what they thought was good about it, what they thought was bad about it. Otherwise, why would you trust them to come back and listen to their next review and their next review?
Yeah, well, that's the problem. Yeah, you have to be, consistent, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I've said this many times. There are a lot of reviewers that I just usually didn't agree with. And sometimes it was like, okay, I'll listen to what they say and assume the opposite,
Yeah.
I like reading some of Ebert's reviews from the 90s. He gave Clueless 3.5 out of 4 stars. As an Austin fan, I'm impressed how that film brought a 19th century British story to the 90s Beverly Hills. Excellent point, Rosefire. Yeah. Did he make that point when he did his review, point out that it was a. Go ahead.
That it was an Austin movie.
Yeah.
I don't based on an Austin novel.
Yeah, because
Maybe
I think that flew over the younger people's heads.
Both Ebert seemed to be the more, I don't want to say easier reviewer, but not always. They would of course split on what they thought of movies all the time. Gene Siskel was more the the meaner reviewer, I thought, of the two of them. But what I thought was interesting was, remember when Tron comes out and Gene Siskel, and you watch that review, and I'm thinking Gene Siskel's going to tear this apart. It's going to be too weird for him. And he goes, "You know what Tron is? It's what we kids used to call neat. This is a neat movie," and he liked it. And I thought that was interesting. And he said that it's better than most of the movies coming out from Disney as of late, which have been garbage. He was really knocking Disney back then. But he really liked Tron. Roger Ebert gave it thumbs up as well. And he said, I usually go to movies to go to places I've never, so I could see places I've never been before. Tron showed me a place I never knew existed. That's what he said.
Yeah.
If you ever want to watch a funny review of theirs, though, check out their review for the movie Good Burger, based on, I guess, the Nickelodeon tween sitcom.
Mm-hmm.
Because they give it thumbs down, but Roger Ebert's saying, well, the intended audience is young kids, and I think they'll have a good time. And he's like, oh, really? I thought the intended audience was their college professor parents. That's what Gene Siskel counteracts. And he's saying, no, I'm just saying, what do you care? He's just trying to say what the audience it's serving, it's probably going to serve it okay. And he was defending it on that level, and then Gene was going after him about it. It's just funny. Sometimes they would get into fights.
yes, they absolutely would. And I love that about them, because they were clearly very passionate. My favorite memory of Siskel and Ebert, and this is going to get me in trouble. They were reviewing the movie The Hunger, and the scene they showed was anyone who's ever seen the movie, I did a rewatch on my channel, the flower duet from Lachme. And if you know the scene I'm talking about, it's she's playing the piano, they're talking about what it's about, and there's obviously some flirting going on, and then Susan Sarandon, who's clearly not wearing a bra underneath her t-shirt, spills wine on her shirt. It cuts before anything serious happens, but the reaction that both Siskel and Ebert have to the clip is whoa, whoa, ho, ho.
They would like that stuff. They were they
did not shy away from saying exactly how they felt about that. And I was like, that's honestly, eventually years later, that's why I saw the movie, because that scene was, I wanted to see what happens next.
They didn't have a problem. Like, I remember later on, Richard Roper replaced Gene Siskel after Gene Siskel passed away, and Richard Roper.
I'm sorry, deleted scenes.
What?
The Hunger, lesbian vampires, and David Bowie. Yes, please.
You do realize that lesbian vampire movies are a genre in horror, right?
They absolutely are.
There's more than a few. Okay.
In fact, I will probably, I will do a Friday night stream on lesbian vampires, because that is.
I'll bring up some movies. I know I've seen some.
Yeah.
So, welcome, Mr. Matchstick. Hello. We should do a Friday night stream, maybe in October, on lesbian vampires. That'd
absolutely. Oh, I'm committed to it.
I'll talk about a movie called Vampires from the 70s, which is a hilarious movie where it's, I think it's a couple of lesbian vampires, but the one keeps seducing this guy, and he wakes up the next day and he's, like there's a big gash in his arm, and then he gets after he made love to the beautiful vampire woman, right? And then he gets in his car about to drive away, and I know what he's thinking. You know what? I know I woke up this weird gash in my arm and should really leave, but man, she was really hot. I got to go back to the house. Anyway, we'll talk about that if we do that stream.
Well, obviously, and I would, definitely start with things like Lilith and Carmilla and stuff like that.
Yeah, I could talk about the vampire lovers with Ingrid Pitt and
exactly
that other actress I liked a lot. That would Yeah. Anyway,
Okay.
I'm gonna get into trouble.
I'm getting you distracted. Let's keep it PG.
All right. Anyway, though, Roger Ebert, Gene Siskel, later on Richard Roeper. Yeah, Richard Roeper hated the Tomb Raider movies. Roger Ebert would give them thumbs up, and he goes, and when they got to the second one, I think you're smitten with Angelina Jolie, and then Roger Ebert says, "What's wrong with that?"
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly right. I'm not saying I'm not biased here. I mean, what's your point?
Oh my goodness, though. You know who Gene Siskel was in love with? You'll never believe the actress he had a crush on, Kathleen Turner.
I can see that. Yeah.
Yeah, he was a big.
Have you saw Body Heat? Oh, come on, man.
Yeah, that was.
Come on, man.
I've seen Body Heat. That's a good one.
Not to mention her voice work on what's
Roger Rabbit.
Jessica. Yeah, she.
I should rewatch the review over Who Framed Roger Rabbit. I think they gave it thumbs up, but it's fascinating watching some of the old shows. It's fascinating, like watching whole episodes because you get to see that. Oh no, bad movies didn't just happen today; they happened back then. There was one about Bo Derek, where I guess she's over in Spain and she falls in love with a bull rider, and then there's a scene. Yeah, Bolero. That's right. And she's in the crowd, and they show the scene from it, and like, why are there more people here? This is exciting, and she's cheering, and then suddenly you hear like the thing, and everyone, and I guess the impression you're supposed to get is that the guy gets gored, and the guy gets gored in a certain part of his body by the bull. And I'm like, you gotta be joking.
Yeah, honestly,
and I busted out laughing.
What happens?
Yeah. I busted out laughing though because it's just. Like they're trying to play it up as this big romantic thing, and then this horrible thing happens, and I just busted out laughing at that.
Trying to remember, Bolero, was that the movie with her and the honey? I think so.
Maybe. Sure. I don't know. Anyway, but yeah, I do miss
basically anyone ever married to John Derek. I do have a type.
Anyways, I do miss I do miss critics of old. Like I said, I think I mentioned Michael Medved. He was another critic.
Yeah, he's like one of my favorites. He became one of my favorites. I started following Michael Medved when he became a conservative talk radio host, and he would dedicate parts of his Friday segments to
movies, right?
To movies, and for the most part, I was finding that if he liked a movie, I probably would like it too. And if he didn't like the movie, I would not like it. And there was one movie he did one weekend that I was planning to go see, and he panned it. And I was like, I think you're wrong this time. I'm going to go see this movie. And I went and saw it, and I'm like, yep, I will never doubt Michael Medved again.
Yeah.
I should have saved my money.
Well, that's the thing, though, with these critics, is that when I would watch them, they would inform me about whether or not I would like the movie, not so much if I agreed with their point. That's how I figured out from the reviews. One time I did go see a thumbs up from Roger Ebert and that time Richard Roeper, which was Enemy at the Gates with Jude Law and Bob Hoskins, and I think Ed Harris was in it.
Mm-hmm.
And it was about Russian soldiers in World War II. And I found it to be a drag and a bore. I did not like that movie. I used to mime. This is what the movie's about. And you have like a guy looking through a sniper rifle, and then he puts it down, then he raises it back up again. It's like half the movie is that. I didn't like it, but they gave it thumbs up. But most of the time, I usually was rewarded for watching their stuff. I would be able to figure out what's good, what's not, what I'll like at least. And they have some famous reviews they were dead wrong on, like The Warriors, thumbs down from Siskel and Ebert. Are you nuts? It's one of the best 70s
That's
movies.
Another one though that I could see first time out maybe, but then as you think it through, that movie's kind of come around on me.
Phantasm. They gave thumbs down to Phantasm.
That's another one that is, it's almost nichey. You know, if you're real into B horror movies, that one's going to stand out for you. If you're not, that one's going to.
If you don't like horror movies, yeah, I guess. And then
there's also a sci-fi element to it too that does. Twist the script a little bit. Jesse Guajardo has a great question that you should try to answer. I wonder what Roger Ebert reviews for Disney Star Wars would have looked like.
I do want to say he gave thumbs down to Attack of the Clones. Many people don't realize this. Richard Roeper gave a thumbs up. He said he really felt bad about it, but he thought Attack of the Clones got bogged down in too much dialogue. That's what he complained about with that.
He's not wrong. Even in retrospect, with multiple viewings, That's my feeling as well.
What would he have given Disney Star Wars movies? He might have given, I could see him giving thumbs up. I don't know. I don't know. And I'm frankly, this is one of these areas where I'm glad I don't know. I don't think he would have given thumbs up to Rise of Skywalker. That movie seems to be universally hated, but maybe I'm in the minority. Would he have been fooled by Last Jedi? Maybe. I don't know. I'd like to think he wouldn't have. Part of the problem is, like, I look at modern critics like Mark Kermode. I do watch him sometime. He was an old BBC film critic. I think he's gone independent since then. He gave the Disney Star Wars movie thumbs up, but I didn't like his reasoning behind it because he says, "Well, I'm not really a Star Wars guy, but I think their fans will like it." I said, "No, if you don't." And this reminds me back to Good Burger, what Gene Siskel was saying. Stop caring about what that audience likes. What do you like? What do you think?
You are the reviewer.
Yes.
You review it on your own merits, and that's where I'm kind of, when I think about this question, I could kind of see Roger Ebert. I mean, same guy that originally didn't care for Star Wars, right? Coming and saying, "Okay, look, I've now seen 6 Star Wars movies. I've had my ups and downs with it. And look at it as a piece of a continuing franchise, right? And say, how does this match up?" And I think he would have been critical of the things like, we have no clue. I mean, we know in between movies things happen, but in Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi, you would get a line here and there that just filled it all in for you. When you make that leap from the end of Return of the Jedi to The Force Awakens, that's over 30 years. And let's face it, the original Star Wars, you don't know anything about the Clone Wars or any of that stuff.
No.
But you get plenty of it, enough of it from dialogue. You get Bupkis in the Force Awakens to tell you what happened between movies. You got to go out and buy some books and comic books and play some video games to figure out what happened in between. No, if it's not in the movie, you did not do your job. I believe that's the kind of stuff Roger Ebert focused on.
I think this new Star Wars trilogy should have been able to have stood on its own without prior knowledge of any of the other movies. I think also, frankly, even within its own, even with prior knowledge of the movies, there's still gaps of things I don't understand.
That's what I'm saying. It's that bad. It is.
Is the Republic running things? Do they have a military? Why? Because I thought the First Order, when I saw it, is like this, like a terrorist type organization that's going after, and they're not.
And
they're
not
like the Empire. They never clarify anything in those movies. Then you have the gambling planet in Last Jedi. Like, are they neutral? Are they part of? Nothing makes sense.
Right.
It's all just nonsense, and it's because you don't have a guy at the helm that is.
And it's folks like the Critical Drinker who come out and say, why are they doing this? Because they need the plot to happen, you know?
See enemies at the gate through new eyes. Maybe I'll watch it again. Maybe I'll have a better opinion of it. But I'm just saying, when I first saw it, sometimes that can happen with me in movies. The ending of Phantasm always threw me for a loop. Not sure I understand the point of it. Here's the thing about Phantasm. What I like about it is it's one of the few examples of an American horror movie that's surreal.
Yeah.
A lot of American horror movies from that era, they're more steeped, they're more steeped in realism. Even stuff like the zombie movies, there's logic behind it.
Yeah.
But Phantasm is very surreal. I will say this, though, if you didn't like the ending of Phantasm 2 explains what happens after the ending, after Mike gets attacked by the tall man. You actually see Reggie fighting it off, but then did that happen? Because it's like, what's a dream? What's real? What's this? It's interesting, but if you didn't like it, it's okay.
It's the thing to keep in mind about Phantasm is that there is a Lovecraftian element to it, but there's also a science fiction element, a Stargate-ish type of element to it.
Well, it's weird, and you sort of get answers in the sequels, but they kind of just raise more questions. But
and I like that kind of stuff. Let's face it,
because they explain, okay, the tall man was actually a mortician during the Civil War, and after the Civil War, he did experiments with sound. And I think he opened up another dimension through manipulating sound, walked through the dimension, and then out comes the tall man.
Yep.
So something happened to him in the other dimension. We don't know what happened to him, but he was a person at one point, which I thought was kind of interesting. But anyway.
I always felt like there needed to be a crossover between Phantasm and Hellraiser.
I thought so too, because you had Freddy versus Jason. You could have
Right.
had Tall Man versus Pinhead, but then I'm realizing they wouldn't fight each other because
No,
they
they
would
wouldn't.
they would just.
Well,
And it's like, you do what you do, I'll do what I do. It doesn't. We're not really interfering.
this is the kind of thing where you got to really understand the characters, their motivations, and would they fight? It's the same thing with Batman versus Superman. Would they fight? No, they shouldn't, at least not initially.
Did
Um,
you? Yeah.
Go ahead.
Did you know in Japan, how you have the Ring movie and you have the Ju-on movie? In
Yeah.
Japan, they did a Ring versus Ju-on movie where the one guy gets cursed by the videotape and another guy walks into the Ju-on house and gets cursed by that. And they figure, what are we going to do? Why don't we figure out a way to get the girl from the 7 Days, remember from the Ring movie, get her to come out and attack the monster in the Grudge house and see what happens. And they did a movie about that. We've never gotten it over here. I'm angry. I want to see this movie. It's never been released.
That sounds awesome. Holy crap. Now I want to see that. Holy crap.
Because it's like it's like the two big ghost movies over in Japan, and like they combine them. But they did. Oh, go ahead.
Just to cap off the Phantasm Hellraiser thing. Here's my thought. I could see the Hell Priest looking at the Tall Man and seeing him as kind of like the surgeon in the third Hellraiser movie. You are a counterfeit Cenobite, and if you are going to operate in this sphere, you have to operate by the rules. The Hell Priest is very lawful evil, right? That's his whole order, and the way
the Tall Man, maybe he's more chaotic, maybe
more an experimenter, and
right.
he's not so concerned with the cosmic balance or anything like that. And so I could see conflict arising there. But man, I think if I was going to put my money down, it'd have to be on the Hell Priest over.
Well, it could be too. He's stealing people for the Hellraiser dimension by plundering all the graves and going around. Maybe he's doing something that's interfering with
that. Could be the resolution, right?
Yeah.
Where they come to a common ground, and he ends up becoming a vassal of Leviathan. That would be good. Oh, God,
I don't know.
See, I wish they could make movies like this.
Well,
we're doing it, guys. We're coming up with the ideas here.
Of course, there's the Leprechaun versus Chucky movie. I'm still waiting for too, but
that
we won't get off on that tangent.
Dude, we're gonna get Chucky versus Megan first.
Yeah, I've heard rumors about that. We'll see.
A lot of people are psyched about it.
Yeah, I don't know. Let's go on. Fight it out over IP. I don't know. Let's go ahead and go to our first story of the night because there's no transition here.
We have a lot of dismal Disney going on here. I don't know if this is going to.
It'll take about 3 hours for us to get all through this. Put the coffee on. I'm kidding. All
right.
Comcast and Disney move up Hulu sale talks to September 30th. They want to dump this thing. Am I wrong here?
That's what it's looking like. Look, okay. I've gotten to the point where I have to believe with Disney. Think like a businessman. Think what would be an intelligent, money-making plan for a big business. Disney's going to do the opposite.
Okay, so Comcast and Disney last week signed a modification to their agreement to bring forward the timing of their sale talks for Comcast stake in Hulu to September 30th. Comcast CEO Brian Roberts said. Currently, Comcast owns 1/3 of Hulu and has set a pact with Disney, which owns the other 2/3, to begin talks to sell a stake to the Mouse House in January 2024. Speaking at the Goldman Sachs Communicopia.
Sounds good to me.
It doesn't sound good to me. Okay, investor conference Wednesday. Roberts said all the synergies around Hulu could be worth $30 billion before you can even ascribe value to Hulu itself. The previous minimum's $27.5 billion valuation of Hulu was a hypothetical set when Disney had control of the company, per Roberts, with the company way more valuable today than it was when that number was set 5 years ago. Roberts said proceeds from Comcast's sale of its Hulu stake would be returned to shareholders. I guess, is Hulu behind Netflix? How well does Hulu? I mean, they're one of the older ones, at least, right? They're a
Yes.
name.
Mm-hmm.
We've seen analysis reports that a buyer, depending on who they were, if it was to scale them up, they could have a couple $1 billion and who knows what of synergy, Roberts said. Just that piece of the synergy and the churn benefit could be worth 30 billion. Now, I know this is all sounding like Greek to you. Churn is when people
Yep.
get rid of their streaming, so maybe they're less likely to churn Hulu. Maybe that's what it is. And that's before you ascribe any value to the actual Hulu. And of course, when you go into one of these robust auctions, and I think if you were selling all of this as is, there'd be a line of bidders around the block to actually buy all of the content, all of the bundling of Hulu, that the business we've never seen. So usually buyers in robust auctions pay for it all. And the seller gets all the benefits of synergy. That's only the third time I've seen it in this article. That's good. They're restrained today. With synergy. Okay. Roberts disclosed the Goldman Sachs has bought into the appraisal process and that it will take a little time for this to play out, but both companies wanted to get behind us. So we pulled the date forward. Weren't Goldman Sachs crooked?
Oh, they're all crooked, but yes.
I've heard people saying that Disney has been lying to its investors about how things are doing.
What? I'm shocked. Shocked, I say.
You'd almost say that maybe you want to get out while the getting is good, but okay. On Friday, Disney disclosed an SEC filing that in the events of the parties not coming to agreement regarding equity fair value, each party appoints an investment banking firm to determine the value. If two buyers are not within 10% of each other, then the two investment banking firms select the third firm to make a third determination, in which case equity fair value shall be the average of two determinations that are closest in value to each other. You listening to all that? I think I saw Mr. Matchstick in the chat. Can you explain that to us? Okay.
I can
A quiz.
I can kind of sum all this up for you. Okay. So and we've kind of touched on this before, right? The fact is that Hulu is going to spin its value to be as much as possible, right? And Comcast is going to say it's worth as much as possible. Disney is going to say no, it's worth as little as possible, so they can, what's the third rule of Ferengi acquisition? Never pay more for an acquisition than you have to. Here's the problem, though. Whereas Comcast and Hulu actually can back up their suppositions with some evidence, Disney kind of is in a position to undermine the value of Hulu because they have so much control over Hulu. And that has been the accusation, saying Disney is purposely trying to tank Hulu so they can get it cheaper. That's illegal.
Yeah, that's not cool.
That's, and if you're one of those that's like, well, that seems like sour grapes. We really think Disney would do that? Well, you tell me. Look at everything else that we've seen Disney doing in the past decade or so, and tell me how honest a company do you think Disney is?
So let me get this straight. Disney still owns majority in Hulu, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Comcast owns a third stake in it. So Disney's basically in charge of Hulu, so they can do with it what they want. So if they make it look bad, they can buy it from Comcast cheaper.
And as you recall, you yourself have been saying for a long time that they got the rights to all kinds of stuff that they could have on Hulu and show, and they don't understand why. Why is all that stuff, socked away somewhere? Well, this is where Comcast comes out and says, this is why.
They have the 20th Century Fox catalog, all those movies, plus all those old TV shows. They could throw them on there, but I just think it'll be a movie 10 to 15 years about the collapse of Disney. People have suggested to be called The House of Mouse. It could star...
Funny you should say that.
Well, I was thinking they could star George Clooney as Bob Iger and Vincent D'Onofrio as Bob Chapek. What do you think?
But it's funny you say that, Rosefire, because as we get into our next article, it looks like the the news is starting to come out, and we're starting to hear a lot about what's going on behind the scenes.
Now, I want to say this. Typically, we've talked about a lot of these events in this article on this stream as they unfolded, but of
Yep.
course, we're in the dark. We know as much as you do. We can read news, but we don't have anybody on the inside. We don't claim to have anybody
No,
on the
we
inside
don't.
feeding us information.
But we have wisdom and we have logic, which puts us far ahead of many of the slack-jawed yokels out there. To be honest with you, definitely head and shoulders above the pixie dusters. So when we make suppositions, then an article like this comes out, it just demonstrates that we knew what the hell we were talking about.
Go ahead and drop the title and link. I'm not going to read this whole thing. I might read a couple segments from it.
This. If there's ever an article that we drop here that you might want to take a look at for yourself, this would be the one. This is incredibly meaty. In fairness, WDW Pro, Valiant Renegade, Midnight's Edge have all covered this in varying amounts of detail, but even they haven't gotten all the way into this because there's a lot here. But we're starting to get the cracks in the walls, allowing us to peek through and in many cases confirm a lot of the speculation that we've been making over the past several years.
Okay. This is what I got from this article, the long and the short of it. Okay. Iger regretted his decision to leave his post after he did it. Like maybe a day or two later, well, I really like being there. In fact, he insisted on keeping his old office because it had a shower in it, right? And Bob Chapek got a different office. Iger regretted naming
another
Chapek.
Thing about this article. There is a lot of, as you read
details,
it, you're like, are these children in effing high school? What?
Yes.
Where are the adults in the room in this?
So Iger regretted naming Chapek as his replacement, probably shortly after he left too. Chapek was interesting. He actually was a fan. His parents took him to the parks a lot growing up. He when he got his degree in business management or whatever, he then went to he got some business degree. Then he went to work for Disney and he worked his way up. I thought that was kind of interesting. This is another point I got. Putting movies on Disney Plus came from pressures from investors wanting profits from streaming. It's interesting. Chapek originally understood that there's a lot of prestige and money to go with just stuff being released in theaters, but I think there was a lot of pressure to make the streaming a big deal. And I think that's how he started with the stuff like Black Widow being put on there because and of course all those Pixar movies that got slapped on there because during the pandemic, because he was trying to satisfy the investors the investors were very focused on Disney Plus.
Yes. True.
This was interesting. Remember the whole Black Widow dust up, Scarlett Johansson breach of contract? Chapek originally expected Iger to smooth things over with Johansson and her agent Lord, or Billy Lord's dad,
right,
Carrie Fisher's ex, because he knew them pretty well, and he thought that Iger was going to go in and smooth over that aspect of it, whereas Iger decided to just not do anything.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, was that to sabotage Chapek?
No, I think it was absolute incompetence. I think all the talk that we've done, I should say all the speculation that people have made about Iger and Chapek playing 4D chess, we're talking about people that aren't even capable of playing checkers.
Yeah,
seriously.
Remember when you and I were saying, like with Johansson, like you want to go, we were actually saying with her, we didn't understand why she was doing all this public outcry and everything. Just go to them, get into talks, and make a deal. And it
sounds like she tried and was ignored. And she finally said, okay, here we go.
Now I'm a lot more sympathetic with her in this situation because I think that it seemed like Chapek was expecting Iger to handle it because Iger wouldn't leave. And I guess Iger was good with the Hollywood types and then Iger didn't, probably because of his own incompetence. I don't know.
It was, and look, and as you read this article, you see all this ridiculousness about, I'm leaving, but I'm not giving up my office because it's got a shower in it. And it's like, this is not how adult executives think. Okay. This is, if I'm out of here, I'm effing out of here. And if I decide to come back, I'll take the damn office, or I'll build my own shower on another office. It's like, get the F over yourself. Do you know how many executives I've known that have an office in a building and never freaking use it? They use it more for storage than anything else.
Well, he liked to shower when he went to the premieres, so he would have 2 showers a day.
I
those
can't
days.
help but, and I've said this about him before. This isn't some guy who's a big business guy. He was a friggin' weatherman who got lucky, who schmoozed the right people. He doesn't have the brains for the job that they've given him.
Well, getting back into it though, now we go into the don't gay the controversy in Florida over the don't say the quote unquote
exactly
don't
as
say
we
gay
predicted.
bill.
It was all about politics.
Yeah.
It was all about his run for the presidency, and it completely at the expense of Disney. He has used Disney to prop up his political aspirations, very, very much to the destruction of the company.
Well, that was him. He really threw Chapek under the bus. It's in the article when he went on. Oh, I forget which program it was. It was on when he says, "Well, you're trying to think of what the political things do. Maybe just do the right thing." Remember, he said that, and it was, when you do, so just do the right thing. And I think that was a knock at Chapek. But remember the apology video that Bob Chapek gave. We finally know who put him up to that. It was Susan Arnold.
Yep.
I was surprised by that. First, he thought his original response went over well. I think that was the original thing where he didn't want Disney getting involved in this political issue.
Yep.
And he thinks the board didn't back him up, and then you had all the outcry from all the employees. And then Susan Arnold says, you have to apologize. And of course, Susan Arnold is of the LGBTQ plus thing. So I guess she was speaking on behalf of them. That didn't really do anything because, as you know, when you apologize to
it makes it worse.
These types, the social justice types, it makes it worse because I think they treat it as an admission of guilt rather than something you'd be forgiven for. They don't understand the concept of forgiveness. We've learned that over the time. So he kind of got hit by a bus twice with all this, I think. That hurt him. Let's go back down to another point I saw from this article. See? I don't have to read the whole article. I just need my little points here. So let's see. Streaming was not as lucrative as promised. Investors were angry. Apparently, Chapek was in the dark on the numbers too. Or at least he thought, or maybe he wasn't and thought the guy presenting the numbers was going to give it a result. Maybe he was trying to present a false thing, or maybe he was unawares. I don't know. But he was not expecting the numbers. The investors,
because of the way he was treated by Iger and the board. He was never given the reins, ever. He was only ever a figurehead. And that's why whenever he would do something, and usually it was something fairly positive, he got slapped down. And it's absolutely ridiculous. He would make a decision, and then he was overridden by Iger, who wasn't even friggin' supposed to be there. He's just, on the board. The CEO is supposed to be on the board. You know that Chapek was never allowed to be on the board?
That makes sense. Iger was, but Chapek wasn't, right?
That is a huge problem. And that is just...
He was left out of meetings.
That is a whole other level of dysfunction.
And I think the final nail in the coffin, which is odd, I did not expect this. Chapek was warned that Strange New Worlds would bomb. He shouldn't release in theaters, but I think the reasoning was it had a gay character in it, and he didn't want to upset the LGBTQ community, like what happened early in the year. So they released it
based on his what people would think of him and his politics and his base, and not on business. And as long as the board allows it, and the proof is in the pudding. Look at the stocks. The stocks, I swear somebody keeps buying up the stocks. When they drop off, you'll see them nibble back up, and then they'll drop off again and they'll nibble back up. Somebody is buying up those stocks when they drop.
I think, I don't know. Maybe it's Bill Gates.
I'd like to think, well, we did an article last week talking about Nelson Peltz. how he increased his stocks in the first quarter of the year. I have to imagine he's probably doing the same thing. I think we're going to be hearing more from him in the coming months.
But I think though that I don't know. What is this? This is like something like Mike. This is like a Mike Judd comedy he would write for TV. This is what
Yeah,
this is feeling like. This is
it really
like
is. You're
Silicon
right.
Valley level weirdness and stupidity. I think Disney, I don't see them turning a corner anytime soon. I think it's going to get worse. I think it's going to get more woke. I think it's just going to be,
And as we look at all
we're
the
going to get a
movies
bunch
they
of
have on the
nonsense.
horizon, and we know they're going to tank, look, businesses cannot afford to keep taking loss after loss after loss. It doesn't work. Look, a lot of people are starting to talk about the companies turning away from ESG. Why did they turn to ESG in the first place? We mentioned that Midnight's Edge had a great discussion. Andre's a finance guy. He knows his stuff, and he really got into why ESG became so prevalent in these companies, and it had to do with their line of credit. In order for them to get a line of credit, they had to, answer to the financial companies. Well, we're diverse and we got this and we got that in this movie. We'll make sure there's a gay couple and a female lead and a this and a that, and just so we can get the money. But here's the problem. That gives you a line of credit. That doesn't make you profit. If you don't start getting profitable, it doesn't matter how much credit you got. You can't live on credit forever.
Disney nowadays reminds me of fairy tales when an ogre or witch consumed too much power and exploded. They
Yeah.
bought up all the properties and ruined them instead of cultivating them.
Yeah.
Here's
Actually,
the thing.
that's a great analogy, Rosefire.
I don't think they can buy up more properties at this point. Granted, they own so much already; it's ridiculous.
It'll be interesting to see if they're able to pull off this Hulu acquisition.
See, Jordan Peterson had a discussion with Oliver Anthony about how some people get a taste of power and the ego corrupts them to the core. Yeah, I don't.
I mean, how long has the adage "power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely"? Isn't that Nietzsche?
Maybe, yeah. Chapek was tethered, yes. But again, Chapek made mistakes too. It's not all on him. But I'll say this: he had no one in his corner at that company.
No
Susan Arnold was not on his side.
The power to wield to back up any of his decisions.
Susan Arnold sabotaged him with that whole stunt,
Absolutely.
with the apology stunt. And I don't know if she did that on purpose or if she thought it was going to work. I don't know.
Makes me wonder if a certain cantina proprietor is going back and looking at her own videos and reevaluating them. I'm guessing not.
Well, I'm trying to think even how we thought of Chapek in the beginning. I thought you originally when Chapek was saying the right things, you said, okay, that's what we want to hear. And then he did a complete 180.
And I was on the forward curve on that. As soon as that happened, I said, that's it. He said all the right things, but he has no spine. He is feckless. What I didn't realize is, regardless of whether or not he himself has a spine, he never had the power behind himself based on what we're reading here. Now, admittedly, this is all from his point of view, but it certainly does match up with everything we've seen.
It was Carl's fault. He's new. Oh, wait. It was these things. Okay. I have no faith to check from the beginning. Nothing would change. Yeah. Well, I think what's his name? Tom Connors was the same way. Remember?
Yeah.
I remember when he said to Susan Arnold, he's like, you know what? All these people are the same. It's just they're awful. I don't know what the future holds for Disney right now. It's
you can say, pessimist, you can say black pill, whatever you want. It's sad when it turns out that being that way makes you more often than not.
All right, so let's get to the next article. Disney drops all but free speech claimed in political retaliation.
Give me a second. I'm having problems with my mouse.
You want me to do it?
No, I got it.
Disney on Thursday amended its federal lawsuit against Florida Governor Ron DeSantis to focus solely on First Amendment claim that the governor politically retaliated against the company. Okay, I don't understand this. Can they just change this? I remember there was a joke. I was watching the Trial of a Time Lord, from Doctor Who, and they were doing things like, "What's with Gallifreyan law? You could just say the charge must now be genocide." It's like, no, he's not on trial for that.
Yeah.
He's on trial for I'm becoming a Time Lord, and like the Valier keeps changing the accusations of what he's being accused of. It's like, no,
Right.
that would be a separate
charge.
charge and a separate legal proceeding. But
Yeah.
I don't know, but yeah. Disney drops all, but see, it's interesting who's reporting on some of this stuff, like MSNBC.
Mm-hmm.
Even no, it's like all. Eventually, the truth comes out, I guess, huh?
Yeah.
Even Disney last week had asked to drop its other claims in the case, which concerns a dispute over Walt Disney World's development contracts because they are being actively pursued in a separate state level lawsuit in Florida.
Mm-hmm.
We will continue to fight vigorously to defend these contracts because these agreements will determine whether or not Disney can invest billions of dollars and generate thousands of new jobs in Florida. A Disney spokesperson said, "I'm getting tired of Disney spokesperson. Who is it? Who says these things?
Doesn't matter.
The person has a name. Say who it is. It's like a Lucasfilm spokesperson said,
here's the bottom line on this. Let me cut through the legalese to explain what's happening here. Disney was trying to take this state issue to a federal court. They were trying to step over DeSantis and go to federal court. Why? Because they're in good with the current administration, right? This goes back to all the politics I was talking about. But unfortunately, the federal court said, this is not a federal issue. This is a state issue. You're going to have to fight it out in Florida. And they remanded it back. So they realized that none of the case that they have is going to succeed in Florida. It's not. The only possible case that they think they have is a federal charge, which is the free speech claim. However, here's the poison pill with the free speech. What they're arguing is what a lot of the pixie dusters have been saying all along, that this is persecution by the state of Florida and DeSantis against us for our political opinions based on the parental rights bill. Right.
Yeah.
And that's against our First Amendment. No. They did nothing to Disney. What they did was they disbanded the Reedy Creek Improvement District, which is not Disney. Despite what everyone wants to believe, what Disney themselves believes, if Disney is in fact Reedy Creek and their free speech was infringed by this, then they are guilty of years, decades of fraud to the tune of billions of dollars. Okay, let's just be clear about that.
Okay. This goes back to that. This whole thing started too because of Chapek's apology thing. I think the thing was he said that they were gonna actively get involved in overturning legislation. That's what got the governor's ire. I think that was the impression I got from this, and it wasn't. It was about the fact that they were going to be getting involved in legislation that had already passed, and they were going to try to overturn it. When it's like if they had just spoken out against it, oh, we think this legislation is bad. I don't think there would have been that retaliation. I think he got angry when it said, because they're a corporation and they're getting involved with something that passed. He also got very angry that they weren't protesting about it prior to it being passed. We didn't hear anybody complaining about it before it went through, but I'm sorry.
Yeah, no.
Okay. In general, the courts will let you remove parts of your case. Adding that makes sense. Like, okay, the DA is dropping this charge but keeping this charge. I see that on shows all the time. Not that I know anything about lawyering, but I've watched a lot of law shows. I assume you have as well.
Oh, absolutely. Look, I don't think there's anyone on YouTube that's better for talking about this particular thing. There's two, and one doesn't consider himself a YouTuber. Mikey the Mexican Iron Man and Legal Mindset.
Legal Mindset. Okay, and Mikey. I keep wanting to see if has Mikey done any rants about movies lately or TV shows.
He's done a lot of great rants. Yeah.
All right, I should go look for those.
Usually not on his own channel though. Usually you got to look around. He's either on Renegade or he's on WDW Pro. Definitely on Midnight's Edge. But he's
as an
definitely
out-of-state corporation trying to bulldoze citizens of the state. Yes. Ask your doctors if copium is right for you.
Well, because Samuel Proctor said black pills, pixie pills, so many pills. Let's just get back to the simple red and blue pills.
Yeah. The point is, though, I've come to the conclusion from all this that Disney is not in good shape, and maybe they'll win this lawsuit. Maybe they probably won't. The company, by and large, I think they're in big trouble. I don't know what they have coming out that people are excited for. I think they're lying about how well their movies are doing. I think they're not doing as well as they say they are. Even the ones that have done better, like those Avengers movies, maybe they didn't do quite as well as they said they did. I think there's...
Yeah, there have been a couple articles that have already come out pointing out that absolutely they lied about many things.
And you investors could have gotten out a while ago. You stuck in there. So, well, we'll see what happens. They're not going to change. They're not going to stop
this whole idea that they're too big. What have I been saying? I've been saying for years now. There's no such thing as too big to fail. I keep bringing it up. And I'm sorry. Eventually, you're going to find that I'm right.
All right. So let's move on to the Sound of Freedom.
Yeah, this is actually some really good news. Sound of Freedom nabs #1 slot in 18 Latin American countries. I said this 2 weeks ago. I said it hasn't released in Latin America yet. You wait. It's going to have another big surge internationally when it releases in international markets. And I was right. The film has scored 18 #1 slots across Latin America over the weekend, according to Angel Studios. Including Mexico, Guatemala, Honduras, El Salvador, Nicaragua, Costa Rica, Panama, Colombia, Venezuela, Ecuador, Peru, Bolivia, Belize, Paraguay, Chile, Uruguay, Argentina, and the Dominican Republic.
Wow, those are a lot of countries south of the border.
Not only was I right, I
thought it was all Mexico. I'm kidding.
When I said it, I was just thinking this is going to be big in Mexico. I did not think how big it would be throughout Latin America.
No, Latin America is huge. Part of me thinks I need to learn Spanish so I can go visiting these places. It's
Yeah.
I mean, it's a huge.
Did you notice I lost my American accent as I was reading through that list?
Oh, that's funny. Yeah. It performed respectively. This is interesting. In our legends, we get New Zealand, #1 in New Zealand, #2 Australia, #2 in South Africa, #4 in the United Kingdom. Yeah, so people are going to see it in these other countries too. This is a smaller American movie. That's not bad.
That really kind of surprised me. I didn't know what kind of a draw it would have, but I heard a commenter point this out to me about UK. They've got very similar problems there. You'd think that, okay, this is just, the US-Mexico border, right? Because that's what this movie focuses on. But no, it's not. There's problems in the UK too, with people disappearing and going to a certain country with a blue and gold flag,
Yikes.
Just saying. And in fact, one of the things I commented on when I was talking about Sound of Freedom was the fact that they kind of glossed over this operation that they focus on, in Mexico, was actually part of a bigger international thing that did include Europe as well. So there's been talk about if they were to do a sequel, they might focus on contemporaneous to what was happening in the first movie, what was happening overseas with that same sting operation.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I think I heard that they would do that, and I think they could. I mean, I think
there's no reason they couldn't. It's a story that clearly there is an audience for, and it's a story that needs to be told, I think. But obviously, I'm not the only one who thinks that. I think all of Latin America thinks that as well. And look, I'm going to put a really fine point on it. For all the wokosos out there that want to pander and say they want to be representative and all this kind of stuff. If you ignore and crap all over the message of this movie, you are literally saying all that diversity and caring about Latinos is bullshit.
Yeah, I mean, let's be honest here. This doesn't make some of the villains in this movie are Americans. It doesn't pull its punches. I mean,
Yeah.
Caviezel's the good guy, working to do it. But you have other. It's not got flattering portrayals, and of course you have people in the other countries too that are aiding in this. And actually, I thought it actually painted the authorities in some of these countries in a better light than you usually see them in these movies, because they're at least trying to get these predators. It's not like, oh, these are the corrupt police and
In
they're just
both
looking the
the
other way.
U.S.
Yeah,
and Mexico, and that's where it focused, was U.S. and Mexico in this movie. You see that there are law enforcement that want to do the right thing, but their hands are tied by a bigger bureaucracy that is a huge problem. And as you said, it's not like they say U.S. over Mexico, or no government is portrayed in a good light in this. And when you get down to the individual levels, there's good guys and there's bad guys, and even the good guys struggle with things,
okay.
And when you're basing it on reality, you either lie about yourself or you just go, you know what, I'm going to be honest.
Yeah.
I think from things that I've heard about Tim Ballard in interviews, like with his wife and stuff like that, I think he went a little hard on himself. I think he could have lightened up a little bit, but he was honest to a fault, I think, in this movie.
Well, it's usually the good people are hard on themselves. The bad
I
people
think
are
you're
usually
right.
easy on
That
themselves.
is a heroic aspect, right?
Yeah, I already knew of Tim Ballard and Angel Studios before The Sound of Freedom came out. Both are pretty big where I live, so I was pleasantly surprised that they joined forces. So that's good.
Yeah.
In the UK, people don't just disappear and leave the country. If you want to see it for a while, read up on Birmingham sometime. Okay.
Wow.
I'll look into it. All right.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's just a shame though, but I'm glad this movie is doing well, and good on Angel Studios. I hope this is the sign of more stuff to come from them. So yeah, good. And I'm really curious. Europe is next. I know England, but that's kind of I've heard people say like the English, they'll say, like I remember watching one movie where the guy says, "What are you?" And he says, "I'm like you. I'm European." No, I'm not European. I'm English. So no, my point is the other countries in Europe, I wonder how they're going to respond to this movie. We may be surprised, like Italy, Spain, places like that. How are they going to receive this movie? I'm curious. So yeah.
All right. This next one, we don't do enough. I feel like we don't do enough toy talk on the channel. And I threw this one out because longest running superhero RPG, RD&D game, Continuum Chronicles, brought this up to me. I did not know about this. So you guys know I follow Hasbro a lot for the Star Wars toys, a little bit for like G.I. Joe, and I'm at least aware of what's going on there. And I kind of ripped them apart a while back for one of their Haslabs related to Transformers. Both Transformers and G.I. Joe. I have problems with their Haslab model all around, but they put out some pretty substandard products. Well, this one relates to an exclusive that they were putting out through Amazon. Apparently, fans reporting fungal growth on Amazon exclusive nacelle figure. Take a look at the article. Yeah, take a look at the article. They got pictures. All the blue plastic
that is
on
disgusting.
this figure has literal mold growing on it. I'll go ahead and read.
Don't we have government agencies that are supposed to look into this stuff?
For food.
Okay, not for food. For toys, they just figure it's okay.
Exactly.
Remember the Aquadots controversy?
Oh yeah.
It turned a certain drug that shows up in bars when men are trying to take advantage of women. But
yep.
Okay,
the new version of slipping you a Mickey.
Yeah,
if you ordered or recently received an Amazon exclusive Legacy Evolution nacelle, you may want to open, there's a typo there, may want to open it right away. Numerous fans that have him in hand are reporting a fungal growth or mold on the plastic, particularly on the wings. As you can see in the images below from Watcher Graphics and the Geek 100, along with others chiming in on social media, this isn't a minor issue. It's highly recommended that both Amazon and Hasbro customer service are contacted by those that have this issue. However, minor your case may be, so they can track issues and investigate them. Thanks to someone or other's something Blade for bringing this issue to our forums. And yeah, there's some graphic pictures. Now, what I am not going to share with you, you can easily find it yourself. If you want to go look up this action figure on Amazon, you can read the comments there. And yeah, so many of the comments are about this. It is wow. Yeah. And when it's an exclusive like this, you can only get it from Amazon. Well, you can probably get it secondhand. Here's another problem that this article doesn't cover. And I think that's because this is specifically a forum for collectors. There's things that they feel don't need to be said. But for those of you that aren't big toy collectors, you have to understand that there are loose collectors like myself, who generally buy the toys to open them up, put them into dioramas to display and stuff like that. There are others that like to keep them mint in box. And something like this is a huge problem for a mint in box kind of person, because they're inclined to just want to keep it mint in box. If you do that, you may very well have a mold growth growing inside that box.
That is disgusting.
It is. It absolutely is.
I expect the Retro Blasting video for these toys. I can't wait. Yeah, I'm sure Michael from Retro Blasting will chime in on this.
He might. I'd be interested to see if he, in fact, I'm wondering if he even knows about this because it is an Amazon exclusive. Maybe I'll kick him off this article when we get done here.
Mold growing on toys sounds like a potential be horror movie for me. Listen, I've had enough dealings with mold this past year. It's not something you play around with. It can actually be deadly in some instances. So,
well, I don't know. You're talking about black mold. This is white mold. Maybe white mold is good.
Well,
I'm joking, of course.
Let's not be prejudiced.
Yeah. Oh, I wasn't even thinking about black.
I didn't even go there, Boomer. I don't know where your mind is. Okay.
I didn't even think of that. That's a great point, though.
There's a way around the company, especially if the label product has a collector's.
Yes, many people are. That's true.
I know this is getting off topic. Have you watched The Chosen yet? I need to watch it because everybody is singing its high praises. I'm wondering if the actor playing Jesus is the guy who was in that Jesus Revolution movie. Maybe it's not, but I don't know if you've seen Jesus Revolution or not.
I have not. No.
It's about this actually. It was an actual event. It's about all the hippies converting to Christianity, and Kelsey Grammer's
the so-called
in it. Yeah.
Jesus freaks of the 60s.
Yeah, it's all about them. It's a good movie. It's a true story. It's I would recommend it to you. It's interesting.
It sounds interesting. I just hadn't heard about it. So,
but
yeah.
one of the hippies looks kind of like he says, but all you think I look like Jesus because he's a hippie, so he has the longer hair and the beard. You know what I mean? So it's like, but it's I'm just wondering if that was the same actor. But Boomer couldn't even finish that joke. Yeah, we have to be careful here.
Exactly right.
Listen, I treat everyone equally with contempt on this show. So I'm sorry.
Exactly right.
Okay.
I hate everyone equally.
Yes. Okay. Go. So next
one more Hasbro piece. Speaking of Haslab, they just released the information, and it's already started. 2 foot tall Marvel Legends Giant Man figure.
Oh my goodness.
Real quick, this one comes from Superhero Hype. Following successful crowdfunds for Galactus and a Sentinel, but a failed fund for Ghost Rider's car, Hasbro's Marvel Legends team has gone back to what worked: larger characters at a huge size. Giant Man has seen toy form before, but never this large. At a whopping 24 inches tall, he somehow packs in 91 points of articulation, 29 points in each hand. Yeah. In fact, the picture that I used for the thumbnail has him giving a thumbs up and holding a little who's that robot that was the bad guy in Age of
Ultron.
Ultron,
Ultron.
holding
Yeah.
Ultron's head.
Ultron. Yeah.
He's complete. He'll complete your Avengers team with the proper proportions, and unlike other Haslab projects, is not through the roof expensive for $200. I still feel like it's a little bit pricey, but I guess you could argue that in the modern market, maybe that is pretty spot on. It is. It mentions the Galactus and the Sentinel. This is a slightly smaller. It's not quite as tall as Galactus and the Sentinel, which is appropriate. It should not be. In fact, I would argue that the Sentinel and Galactus were undersized if you're looking for scale. This one, is appropriately scaled to the other Avengers figures, and just coming in slightly shy of the other two is appropriate, I think. What's amazing about this is, oh God, this just bugs the hell out of me. So they got to go for stretch goals, right? The two stretch goals they have are alternate heads. And the alternate heads are a Skrull and Marvel Zombie head. Who's going to use those? Seriously. I mean, unless they're planning on putting out like all Skrull versions of all the other figures, all zombie versions of all the other figures, nobody's going to ever use those heads. That's stupid. Actually, there's two alternate faces as well. One smiling and three. I'm sorry. Grimace, Smile, and what do you call it? Like showing his teeth type face.
Fierce determination. I don't know.
Those at least make sense. But as stretch goals, I'm not sure. Who has a great video about this just recently is Tony from Analog Toys. He basically the same things I said about it. It's like, I'm not going to be getting this thing, but yeah, it's not a bad figure. They totally could have just sold the damn thing, like through Hasbro Pulse or something like that. It didn't need to be a Haslab. And what stupid stretch goals. Now, Tony's idea was brilliant. He said, what would have been a good stretch goal? We've got multiple versions of, different size and scales of Giant Man, from Ant-Man up to Giant Man. What would have been cool is if one of the stretch goals was like a clear plastic, almost vacuum form type thing that you could put the multiple sizes, indicating like he's growing up from human size to giant size. That would be brilliant. And the other thing too is this particular style of Giant Man is the Giant Man from the old comics, whereas the Ant-Man figure is the one with the helmet. So maybe one of the stretch goals could have been the Ant-Man figure in this style with the antenna and not the helmet. That would have made sense. But again, I'm not really entirely certain how well Hasbro thinks through their toys. I'm sure this will do just fine as long as the legs are strong enough to support it. Talking about the Sentinel on this one.
You worry it's going to topple over? Is that what happened with the Sentinel?
I'm hoping they lost they learned their lesson from the Sentinel.
What happened with the Sentinel?
Sentinel had legs that were the knees were kind of weak. So if you tried to stand it up, it would fall backwards. And their response to the fans was, all you have to do is tighten this screw. And it's like, no, for the price we paid, you should get it right in the first place. And if you keep tightening the screw, eventually it's going to break because you're putting it under tension that it shouldn't be under.
This is what I don't understand. You're paying a lot of money for
Yes.
this thing. There should be like almost a craftsman quality to what you're purchasing here. This is not
sad
just
that so many toys that I see, people are putting out YouTube videos about how to fix or improve the toy. It's like, for the price I'm paying, I shouldn't have to put in extra work to get the coloring right or, fix the joints. a couple of years back, and I even talked about this, Michael French at Retroblasting did a great one that ripped apart NECA for the fact that you'd take a figure out and go to pose them and it would break. And they put out, well, what you got to do is you got to boil it in hot water and loosen up those joints. No, I should not have to do that. And it should not be breaking right out of the package. And recently someone else did a video basically praising Michael and saying if it weren't for Michael and people like him, NECA would not have gotten their act together and started improving their toys. People would just keep forking out the money for this half-ass stuff. Keep in mind, guys, I've gotten off on a little tangent here. I am not saying that there's anything wrong with this Giant Man figure. I'm just pointing out problems that Hasbro has had in the past that I hope are fixed. Yeah. Oh yeah, the carbon freeze chamber, the stairway to nowhere, where you have to get 2 of them in order to have a complete set. Yeah.
Was this from the 70s or 80s?
This was a recent Hasbro Pulse exclusive. It was the scaffolding and the stairway. That's all it was of the freeze chamber. Yeah.
Sounds like they gave out Sentinels with arthritis. Oh my word.
Well,
that was something I thought that, no offense, I thought the Fox X-Men movies kind of dropped the ball a little bit on. You finally get the classic Sentinel design when they did the Days of Future Past, but I remember growing up, the Sentinels were the big villains in the first season of the X-Men cartoon. They were the big antagonists. They were.
How do you not talk about the Sentinels when you're doing the X-Men? That would be like
they took forever to get to them.
I mean, sure, I understand,
it's a budget thing, probably.
Well, possibly. I do understand Magneto is to the X-Men what Lex Luthor is to Superman. I get that.
He's an important villain, yeah, but the Sentinels were huge.
Yeah, but quite literally, yes.
Yes. There was a wonderful line on the old X-Men cartoon where the Senator is telling the Sentinels are about to attack all of humanity. And he says, I didn't tell you to attack the humans. I told you to just attack the mutants and take care of them. And the Sentinel turns to him and says, mutants are humans. Yeah. I thought that was funny that the Sentinel wasn't racist, I thought that was
exactly.
Anyway, good old days of before Marvel went to pot.
And speaking of good old days, our next article basically is the payoff to why we were talking about.
This is another in-depth article. I'm going to read the beginning of it, and then we'll talk about the rest. Okay, the decomposition of Rotten Tomatoes. They're both the same article, I believe. So I'm just going to read from.
Yeah,
they just had different titles. So you want to post the link, and I'll read from it.
I thought I did.
You did. I did. I did. I clicked on it. I didn't realize because I was looking at the article.
Yep.
Awkward silence now. I better just read, huh?
Yeah, go ahead.
In 2018, a movie publicity company called Bunker 15 took on a new project, Ophelia, a feminist retelling of Hamlet starring Daisy Ridley. Critics who had seen early screenings had published 13 reviews, 7 of them negative, which translated to a score of 46% on the all-important aggregation site Rotten Tomatoes, a disappointing outcome for a film with prestige aspirations but no domestic distributor. But just because the tomato meter says a title is rotten, scoring below 60%, it doesn't need to stay that way. Bunker 15 went to work. While most film PR companies aim to get the attention of critics from top publications, Bunker 15 takes a more bottom-up approach, recruiting obscure, often self-published critics who are nevertheless part of the pool tracked by Rotten Tomatoes. In another break from standard practice, several critics say Bunker 15 pays them $50 or more for each review. These payments are not typically disclosed, and Rotten Tomatoes says it prohibits reviewing based on financial incentive. In October of that year, an employee of the company emailed a prospective reviewer about Ophelia. It's a Sundance film, and the feeling is that it's been treated a bit harshly by some critics. I'm sure sky-high expectations for the culprit, so the teams involved feel like it would benefit from more input from different critics. More input from different critics is not very subtle code, and the prospective critic wrote back to ask what would happen if he hated the film. The Bunker 15 employee replied that, of course, journalists are free to write whatever they like, but that's super nice ones, and there are more critics like this than I expected. often agreed not to publish bad reviews on their usual websites, but to instead quarantine them on a smaller blog that Rotten Tomatoes never sees. I think it's a very cool thing to do. If done right, the trick would help ensure that Rotten Tomatoes log positive reviews but not negative ones. Between October 2018 and January 2019, Rotten Tomatoes added 8 reviews to Ophelia's score. 7 were favorable, and most came from critics who have reviewed at least one other Bunker 15 movie. The writer of a negative review says that Bunker 15 lobbied them to change it. If the critic wanted to give it a barely overall positive, then I don't know if the editors at Rotten Tomatoes and then I do know the editors of Rotten Tomatoes and can get it switched, a Bunker 15 employee wrote. This is like you say, if a critic with Roger Ebert, when they would go back and rethink it, right? You know what I'm saying? Hello? Oh. Hi.
I even typed in the chat. I'm like, let's see how long it takes him to realize.
Well, I'm reading the article. I can't do 2 things at once.
No,
I can't multitask.
I know. I get it.
You know why I can't multitask? I'm a human being. I'm not a computer. I don't like that term multitasking.
Eventually they will replace you with the AIs because AIs can screw up more than one thing at once.
The writer of a negative review says Bunker 15 lobbied them to change it. If the critic wanted to give it a barely overall positive, then I do know the editors at Rotten Tomatoes and get it switched. A Bumper 15 employee wrote. I also discovered another negative review of Ophelia from this period was not counted by Rotten Tomatoes by a writer whose positive reviews of other Bunker 15 films have been recorded by the aggregator. Ophelia climbed the tomato meter to 62%, flipping from rotten to fresh. The next month, the distributor IFC Films announced that it acquired Ophelia for release in the U.S. Everything's a grift.
And this is just another one of those articles that we're sharing that we already said all of this a long time ago, and this is just justification and just saying sorry. Troy and Boomer were right.
Well, this all went back to the whole Captain Marvel controversy. Remember when that movie came out? This is before we even had a show going, but I was listening to people. They're saying that all of a sudden these good reviews are coming through. You can manipulate this stuff very easily. This is how you manipulate the critics side. Obviously, audience scores you can manipulate just by spamming, I guess, right? But
and that's the thing. They were focusing on that and claiming, well, this is all bots and da 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 da. Yeah, but not the professional critics. You guys are manipulating that. And that's what we were saying.
But here's the deal. These are the smaller critics, and I think they're trying to rise in the ranks.
Yep.
Correct? And they're thinking, well, boy, do they count YouTube videos as part of these critiques, or is it just written reviews?
That's a good question. I don't know. I've never really looked.
We've often complained about shills, and this would make sense because think about it. You're a no-name critic, but this company, you give them a good review, they might invite you to more screenings, and you can post that I've been to the screening. There might be an incentive. You get paid a little bit of money, and you just tweak a review. And if you didn't like the movie, they're not saying you have to like the movie. Just don't post it on your regular blog. Post that review somewhere else.
And this is exactly what we were talking about when we were talking about the good old days of reviewers. You may not have agreed with them, but they were not beholden to anyone but themselves. And they had to be true to their own opinions because, if they were shills, you would not be coming back to them the following week. You would know that they weren't worth your time,
Yeah. It goes on to say the Ophelia affair is used as a microcosm for understanding how Rotten Tomatoes, which turned 25 in August, has come to function. The site was conceived in the early days of the web as a hot or not for movies. Now it can make or break them, with implications for how films are perceived, released, marketed, and possibly even greenlit. The tomato meter may be the most important metric in entertainment, yet it's also erratic, reductive, and easily hacked. The studios didn't invent Rotten Tomatoes, and most of them don't like it, says the filmmaker Paul Schrader, but the system is broken. Audiences are dumber. Normal people don't go through reviews like they used to. Rotten Tomatoes is something the studios can game, so they do. So I don't understand. This is most of them don't like it, but they can game it, so they do. So I don't understand.
That they're just trying to throw some cover and put a positive slant on it, which kind of shows their own bias as well. But the fact is, it tells you something. What is the value of these reviews if you can't trust them? Honestly.
I don't get it. I don't get it. I find multitasking overrated. I've tried to juggle two things at once. That pays off. To focus digitally on what you're doing, one task at a time, and do it properly. I agree. Do you not agree?
I absolutely agree.
Okay. This is for you. Well, so much for me thinking he was an actual boomer for years. Who, me?
Yeah,
Oh,
I was explaining to him that you're not a literal boomer, that you and I are
I'm a
actually,
young Gen Xer. That's what I would consider myself.
yeah, we're actually Gen X, but
We're still
boomer
pretty old and out of touch, so don't
boomer
worry.
in the modern use of it, okay, boomer,
Yeah,
like
when you're
bad
out
with
of touch.
technology, out of touch, not with it, kind of a thing. Um, but
And the fact that I like boomer shooters too.
boomer shooters. Yeah, well, and again, there were no boomer shooters in the days of the
They were
actual
just
boomers.
shooters. They're right. By the way, a big boomer shooter announcement. I don't know how I missed this 2 weeks ago, but we'll talk about it next week. But that's a surprise. Another old boomer shooter is being resurrected.
Oh,
I'll send you the article after the stream, Troy. We'll talk
okay.
about it next week. You might like this one actually. I think you might get a
Probably.
kick out of this one.
Probably.
People are dumber. How about there are more reviewers out there that are dumber? Does anybody take Movie Bob seriously? Let's not get on the track about Movie Bob. Oh no. No.
And you're right, Boomer. I'm sorry. I don't know why I got that article in there twice.
It's
So
okay. It's all
that
right.
just means one less article.
Which is good because we have a lot tonight. Let's move
Because
on to Jay.
Yeah, I was going to say we have plenty enough to talk about. So yeah.
J.J. Abrams.
And not just him. Mindy Cohn, Kate, whatever her name is, Greg Berlanti, Bill Lawrence. Bye-bye.
Okay. Well, suspended. Let's see. Warner Brothers TV has suspended overall deals with more of its A-list marquee producers, which is believed to include Greg Berlanti, Bill Lawrence, John Wells, Chuck Lorre, and Mindy Kaling, as well as J.J. Abrams' Bad Robot, Shingle. Some of those names, including Wells and Lorre, have their deals suspended months ago, early on in the Writers Guild of America strike. Others who had shows in various stages of post-production when the work stoppage began May 2nd were kept status quo while episodes were completed. The latest news of suspensions come months after Warner Brothers TV, along with Amazon, HBO, Warner Brothers, NBC Universal, Disney, CBS Studios, and other major struck studios, already hit pause on some first look and overall deals amid the ongoing writer's strike. Those suspensions took place in May, soon after the WGA strike began, and didn't include producers who still had shows and productions. This is where the SAG-AFTRA also went on the strike. Okay. So let's see here. Such a deal suspension is different from overall terminations, which so far have not been keenly seen in the industry, even though the writer's strike has already passed 90-day mark when historically deal makers have an option to kill agreements in the face of an act of God. The common show business interpretation of how the phrase force majeure applies to these types of labor shutdowns. I'm curious, you think it's called a suspension and not a firing because the strike is still going on? And it would look bad for the studios to be firing people. You're firing them over the strike.
Well, partly, and that comes to a supposition I'm going to make as soon as you finish this up here.
Yeah. So overall deals typically pay overhead for a writer's company and fund the development of projects. First look deals also provide financial padding and in return guarantee that the studio or company has favored nation status when it comes to determining potential distribution of a series or film. Insiders note that suspensions usually only put a deal on hold while no work is being done anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Once production resumes, the deals resume with the previously suspended time tacked on to the end of the pact. But it still means that the overhead to pay salaries at companies like Bad Robot will be paused, impacting staffers in the meantime. So they don't want to be paying them while nobody's working.
Exactly. And the supposition is that if at the end of this they pick up and continue and they continue with the contract, then the lost time is added on like back pay, but here's my supposition on that. First, they claim force majeure. Nothing's happening, so we can't pay you. As long as you're not working, we can't pay you. Sorry. But I also think that this is going to be an opportunity at the end of this thing. The longer it goes, the more likely this is to be true for them to say, you know what? We have to make some really hard decisions about what we're going to do going forward. And, I don't think that, that your Velma series is really a good idea for us going forward. So we're not going to be picking that up. Sorry. Thank you. Bye. And they use this recent force majeure to say, it changed the whole business paradigm. We gotta renegotiate. So let's go back to the boardroom. Yeah, we don't think there's a market for this show. We're not going to do this. Never mind.
I wonder too, and maybe this is a minor thing, but notice how that new Batman cartoon got picked up by Amazon, and wasn't that Abrams produced? You think the people over at Warner's got annoyed by that? I'm probably reaching there. Maybe they were okay with it. I don't know.
Unfortunately, again, we're looking into something that we have no insight.
Yeah, okay. We have
like
no
Tom
idea.
Connors is always saying, nobody knows what the hell's going on with Warner Entertainment besides what's his name? Gunn.
My only because my only thinking on that is that they must have been contractually allowed to shop it around if HBO didn't want to pick it up, right? And that's why Amazon is getting a Batman cartoon series, which I think is bizarre since Batman should be on Max, right?
Yeah, I'm just laughing at David Pensak's comment here. For the love of God, will someone give Bad Robot the HAL 9000 treatment and pull its memory circuits? Yeah, right? Daisy.
Yes, I know. It's been fun, ladies and gentlemen, but time to face the curtain with Val. Good night and good week, everyone. Well, good night, Rosefire.
Good night, Rosefire. Thanks for hanging out.
Always catch the rest on the re-thingy.
Re-thingy, yeah.
The re-thingy with the thingy. Okay, who's your son's name? Steve McQueen. Homer, that's your hero. I remember that from The Simpsons. When I used to watch The Simpsons, I don't know if I want to watch it now, but
well, and that brings us to Chuck Lorre, right? Chuck Lorre is responsible for so many of the great sitcoms that we enjoyed for years. I'm thinking like Dharma and Greg. Netter and I used to watch that all the time.
Oh, right. Yeah, I remember that.
The 2.5 Men, even as recently as this Young Sheldon, which was a spinoff of or prequel, or however you want to look at it, of the Big Bang. He did great comedies, but I'll be honest with you, the man is in his 70s now, and it's like you've had a long career, and it's got to be getting really shitty to be in that business now when you can't really do comedy anymore. I would use this. This is the other side of this. As long as they're doing force majeure and suspending and whatnot, when they come back, if I was Chuck Lorre, I'd just say, you know what, I'm going to retire now. I'm getting out of this bullshit.
Take the money and run, basically, if you can.
Yeah, right.
Good night, Horizon Talker. Thank you for stopping by.
Take care, buddy. Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know, though. You guys are hitting the bed early instead of staying around for the late night program.
Yeah, don't forget, Deleted Scenes, is going live right after this. Well, not right after this, but shortly.
But at midnight. And it's a much better than watching, I guess, Jimmy Fallon, it seems like.
And he's got a very special guest tonight.
Tom Connors. Yes. Not Tom Connors, Tom Conkle.
No, wait, which Tom is it? I forgot now. No, it's Tom Connors of the physical media show, right? Midnight's Edge After Dark.
Completely confused. Who's going to be on his channel?
Somebody named Tom that I know I'm a fan.
It's going to be an awesome guest. Check it out. Okay. And Deleted Scenes, feel free to clarify if you're listening. All right. But yeah, check out his thing. I should start putting a link to his. Well, there's a link to his pre-show in there. You should be able to get to his channel.
I made Netter laugh. At least I think it was me that made her laugh.
Somebody named Tom.
Somebody named Tom's going to be on, and I like him.
I think we have to talk about a fellow named Jimmy.
Yeah, we do. Let me just hit enter.
Wow. This came as kind of a surprise to me.
Not at all for me.
Oh, I'm not a big fan of the hosts. The late night hosts, obviously.
Let me repost the link. Yeah, this. Oh, darn it. Is that right? Is that the full link?
I guess.
Yes,
there we go. Embarrassing, and I feel so bad. Okay, well, that's part of the
Oh,
title.
Jesus
Just let
Christ.
it go. We'll be fine. I'll read the whole thing.
Yeah.
Jimmy Fallon apologized to staffers following a report of toxic workplace behavior.
Would
It's
never
embarrassing, and I
do
feel so
that.
bad. Jimmy Fallon apologized to Night Show staffers Thursday afternoon following a Rolling Stone report about his behavior on NBC's venerable late night program over the years. It's embarrassing and I feel so bad. Sorry if I embarrassed you and your family and friends, Fallon said during a Zoom meeting with Tonight employees. Variety has learned. I feel so bad I can't even tell you. He told the assemblage during the meeting, which was said to be brief, I want this show to be fun. It should be inclusive for everybody. It should be funny. It should be the best show for the best people. Several former staff members of the Tonight Show star Jimmy Fallon spoke to Rolling Stone about what they described as a toxic work environment behind the scenes of the NBC late night program. Some of these staffers said their mental health worsened during their time on the show, where they alleged Fallon could lash out under pressure. 9 different showrunners have managed Tonight since Fallon succeeded Jay Leno in 2014. And the impertinence of that position, there is significantly less turnover at Comedy Central's Daily Show, NBC's Late Night with Seth Meyers, and ABC's Jimmy Kimmel Live, and CBS Late Show with Stephen Colbert is said to have exacerbated the situation. I guess they have less turnover there. Mm-hmm. NBC declined to make executives available for comment. Insiders at the show have pointed out the air of stability since Chris Miller was named showrunner in March of last year. Miller, who worked with Drew Barrymore in her Flower Films production company for 20 years, has spent years working with an array of talent and entertainment executives. One of the people he struck a connection with during this time was Nancy Uvian, a longtime production partner to Barrymore and Fallon's spouse. In his early tenure on the show, Miller tried to focus the program on Fallon's strengths like impressions, sketches, and music, and steer the program away from heavy doses of political humor.
Good.
Still, the Rolling Stone tales many believed have taken place during an earlier era of the program raised eyebrows. Nobody told Jimmy no. Everybody walked on eggshells, especially showrunners, a former employee told the magazine. You never knew which Jimmy we were going to get and when he was going to throw a hissy fit. Look how many showrunners went so quickly. We know they didn't last long. The show allegedly had a cry room on the set where employees could decompress due to the hostile work environment. It was like if Jimmy is in a bad mood, everyone's day is effed. One former employee said. Actually, we're past the 15-minute remark. Everyone's day is fucked. Okay, one former employee said people wouldn't joke around in the office. They wouldn't stand around and talk to each other. It was very much like focus on whatever it is you have to do because Jimmy is in a bad mood, and if he sees that, he might fly off. This sounds pretty intense.
Yeah.
One staffer also alleged Fallon appeared drunk at work during rehearsal and couldn't recall crossing out a joke in his notes. He couldn't remember he had crossed it out himself, the employee said. It was like, oh my God, he seems drunk. He doesn't know what he's doing. This could be awful. This could be the end of the show right here. Fallon's Tonight Show is currently on hiatus due to the strikes by the WGA and SAG-AFTRA unions representing writers and actors. Do you buy this story?
Absolutely, I do.
Yeah.
It sounds very much like what I would expect, not knowing these people. It's just, based entirely on my prejudices. This sounds reasonable to me. Yeah.
Okay. So he didn't strike me as like a temperamental guy. If anything, I thought Jimmy Fallon, not to be mean, he struck me as one of the not so bright hosts of late night.
Let me put it to you this way. That whole thing about trying to steer him away from political humor and stuff like that. It becomes very clear when people are that focused on politics and one side over the other. And this actually goes both ways. I mean this to both sides of the aisle. They're usually assholes. They usually are. It's like they have a you people kind of attitude. That's a problem in all areas of business.
Oh, and just so you know, it is Tom Connors coming on Deleted Scenes.
I was right. There
tonight.
We go. Yeah,
that is a very big deal. He's a big wig over at Midnight's Edge. You should definitely tune into Deleted Scenes. Tune into him all the time. But tune in, especially
he
tonight.
Knows more than I've forgotten about physical media, about movie history, about about music. He is he is a wealth of knowledge, and I'm definitely going to try to. If I'm going to stay up late, that's something I'm going to stay up late.
And he called Chapek when everybody else was saying he's playing 4D chess. So give him points for that.
Honestly, yeah. I mean, and at the time I was like, oh, he's just being a black belt.
That's what I was thinking too. And I was thinking, oh no. And I said, well, but then a little part of me is like, well, what if he's right?
and this is what I was saying. It's gotten to the point where the pessimists and the black bills are right more often than they're wrong. So it's a sad state of things, but there you go.
All right, so let's get to another quick one.
I agree, Samuel. What do you mean, you people? That tells you something. Exactly right. I get the joke that you're making, though, too. Yeah.
Was that a SNL Ross Perot gag where he says, "I didn't mean to call you people, you people."
Yeah.
Oh, Ross Perot. Remember when they did the vice presidential debate for what was it, I think it was for 1992 with Stockdale. Remember Stockdale was the VP pick for Ross Perot during the three-man debate, and they kept having him say stuff low like ping pong, like he only said like two words.
Right.
I'm just joking. He was an admiral. Let's not pick on Admiral.
You got it. Yeah, we're getting into the weeds of
what
for a lot of you guys, old politics. So
Yeah, did you know at one point they allowed a third party candidate to debate with the other two candidates back in the olden days before they locked it down?
I'll tell you what. I knew a lot of people that voted for Ross Perot.
Hank Hill.
And I'll be honest with you, a lot of people that voted for Ross Perot said that's why they were voting for Trump. They said there was a lot of things about Trump that reminded them of Perot, and that's why
I think he would have been a candidate for that party back in the day. Trump. What was it called again? It wasn't Green Party, was it? It was some other party.
No, it was something else.
I forgot. But what was interesting about
the third party concept was a little ahead of its time. We weren't ready for it yet. I'll be honest with you, though. I think we're fast getting to the point where a third party may very, very well be viable again.
Ross, but what was interesting about that, though, I forgot what I was going to say now. Ross Perot,
a very
Hank Hill. I was reading an interview in EW, like I think it was Entertainment Weekly or TV Guide, where they were interviewing the character Hank Hill from the show King of the Hill.
Right.
And they said, what about politics? I know what you're getting at, and let me tell you something. I voted for Ross Perot, and I do not regret it. That's what he said. So Hank Hill voted for Ross Perot.
And there's nuance to that joke because people that really did understand politics at the day are the ones that would have voted for Ross Perot. Reform Party. Thank you.
Of course, that makes perfect sense. Why would our government need reform? Come on now. All right. So let's move away from the United States, go to Japan for a minute, or actually Canada, but whatever, it's all the same. Okay, Guillermo del Toro introduces The Boy and the Heron to open Toronto Film Festival.
And give me a second, I don't think the link.
It's a horrible link.
Correctly.
Where'd you get this from? Who sent this to you?
The Hollywood Reporter.
No, I'm the one who sent it to you, though.
Well, it doesn't matter who sent it to me. It's these outlets have to put their entire freaking title, which is way too long to begin with, into their link instead of just saying, movie news 12355845110, so that it's short enough to copy and paste. They have to get the whole fucking title in there. I'll be honest with you. I got buddies who send me political links like this. I'll read the link and go, okay, I know what I need to know, and then not even bother clicking on it.
Yeah. Guillermo, and like I said, it's you get what you need from the headline. Is that what you're saying?
Exactly.
Okay. Guillermo del Toro introduces The Boy and the Heron to open Toronto Film Festival. Hayao Miyazaki's animated The Boy and the Heron earned a brief and polite applause after it opened the Toronto Film Festival with visual beauty and deep philosophical messages on screen, but without the draw of red carpet glitz from Hollywood A-listers. The Japanese anime legend was a no-show in Toronto for the international premiere, with Studio Ghibli instead represented by executive Junichi Nishioka and Oscar winner Guillermo del Toro helped introduce Miyazaki's latest animation film as he made a surprise appearance on stage in front of the first night audience at Roy Thompson Hall. And why was he able to be there? Because the Directors Guild solved their issues, right?
Yeah.
So he can introduce this. Miyazaki, in my estimation, is the greatest director of animation ever, and he has made his films as full as dialogues and questions as he is. The Pinocchio director said, as he compared Miyazaki to Van Gogh and Mozart as an artistic genius, "You're lucky to be able to see The Boy and the Heron for the first time outside of its country of origin," Del Toro added. Handling the opening night slot for The Boy and the Heron marked the first time a Japanese film or an animated title has launched the marquee Canadian festival. Doing so also hedged bets for the TIFF that the Hollywood strikes would not be resolved in time for an opening night ashort of American stars on red carpets headed into the Princess of Wales and Roy Thompson Hall theaters to kick off the 48th edition this year. I think this was actually pretty clever what they did here. This is a very anticipated animated film. And granted, they've had premieres of his films where they would usually have the American dub actors, show up on the carpet. And they're usually well-known stars that would do the dubbing for these movies, even over here. But since it's an animated film and it's also a foreign film, you could just have Guillermo del Toro do the introduction, and it's not weird. Whereas if it had been a film with A-list Hollywood actors and none of the actors are there, it might have seemed weird.
Yeah,
do you understand? So
quite clever.
So this actually made a lot of sense. This is a world-renowned director, his quote-unquote final film, unless he lives long enough to make another one.
Yeah.
I am very looking forward to this movie. And thank you, Studio Ghibli, for allowing me not to get hyped for it by having a no advertising campaign.
Exactly.
I even understand in Japan, in North America, Europe, come on. We want to know what this movie's about, and you're killing me.
Yeah.
Oh, all right.
Would you say that this is an example of some creative marketing to get around what's going on?
I get it in Japan because he's the Walt Disney of Japan. He is a big deal over there, and he's a known name even here in the States and I some other countries as well. But you would have to do some kind of advertising, even if it's just doing a trailer with a highlight reel of all of his past movies, and then saying his final movie, The Boy and the Heron, opens. And maybe do a tiny clip, or if you want, just avoid the clip at all. But this way, we at least know his final movie is coming out. Because I don't know what kind of release this is going to get over here. If it's just going to get a 3-night only at a Regal Cinemas, or is it going to get a full on release? His movies have it's. I just don't know.
Right.
I'll say this: back when Disney distributed them, they would get regular releases. At least not in the beginning, but later on. Like I saw, Secret World of Arrietty was given a regular release. I went to my local Cineplex to see that. And Secret World of Arrietty, that was based on the book The Borrowers. You probably heard of that book, right?
I've heard of it. I don't know much about it.
Yeah. So, Boomer confuses Canada with Japan. I was trying to say is that it's still another. I'm taking us out of our country into the exotic foreign locales of Japan and Canada. Okay. I haven't been to Canada in a long time. So
don't go now. I'd rather go to Japan than Canada.
Yes. Blame Disney. I
blame Disney for everything.
I have a book. Someone at work gave it to me as a Christmas present, and it's a really neat book. It's about, I think, the liaison between Studio Ghibli and Disney when these movies were getting released over here, and the pitfalls he ran into, like the fact that. What was it? I think that you couldn't do any cutting of the movie because the Studio Ghibli had had to allow another distributor, and they chopped it up, and they got very angry about that.
I would imagine, yeah.
So then Disney gets their hands on Kiki's Delivery Service, and they're changing the music and adding dialogue where there is no dialogue.
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah, but that's okay, right? And they said that the Japanese producer kind of smiled or something, but no, this was not the intent of the original arrangement. We don't really want you altering these things too much.
Right.
Eventually, John Lasseter steps in, the guy that runs Pixar Animation Studio, and takes over the release and dubbing of these movies because he's a big fan of Hayao Miyazaki.
Right.
And he had a good relationship with him. He would visit Studio Ghibli. Miyazaki visited here. So, of course, then they got rid of John Lasseter.
Yeah.
And they also stopped releasing the Ghibli movies over here. Now G Kids releases them all, which is a uh, a distribution of Universal Studios. They now release the Ghibli movies, and G Kids, basically G Kids, they'll release a lot of I would say family friendly or at least teen friendly anime films, and also movies made in other countries, animated movies from other countries too, like some of those Irish animated movies and stuff. They'll release those too. So
Well, this is
yeah.
interesting. Jesse Guajardo says that his local cinema has a monthly showing of Studio
Oh
Ghibli
yeah.
during the summer.
This happens at Regal Cinemas too. They'll do like 2 nights only, and they'll do like one night will be a subtitled Japanese version, the other night will be the dubbed version. I was tempted to go see Kiki's Delivery Service this year because that's one of my bucket lists. I want to see Kiki's Delivery Service on the big screen because it has these wonderful, wonderful cityscapes and a young witch flying around in them, and I really wanted to see that on the big screen. And it's interesting. I heard one person refer to what was it, Kiki's Delivery Service. It's almost like a vision of Europe if the world wars had never happened. What it would have been
Interesting.
like, But I mean, it's a wonderful, wonderful movie. But it's about, if I have to describe the conflict in it, it's how there's character versus man versus man, or character versus character, or character versus nature. This is character versus self.
Wow.
Which I thought, and it's in a children's movie, and it does it very well.
Those are some of the best stories usually.
Yeah. So, but anyway, let's move. Speaking of movies,
well, yeah, and let's talk about
from wholesome family fare too.
Well, we are in September, which for many of us is the lead into the autumn season. The Halloween season is fast approaching. And so we're going to talk about, we had the Nightmare Before Christmas. This is kind of the nightmare of Thanksgiving, I guess.
Okay, so there's a bit of a joke here. It's not your fault. It's Bloody Disgusting's fault. It has the title of Thanksgiving teaser trailer. That's definitely not cranberry sauce. Haha.
Yeah.
But the article is about something else. But I actually want to read what the article is about, and then we can talk about the Thanksgiving trailer. How's that sound?
I guess you're right. I did kind of.
It's not your fault though, because that's the headline in the actual article. It's just that they posted the wrong story. Yes, but this also interests me because I'm a fan of the movie The Strangers. So
yeah,
unless you want to talk about Thanksgiving.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, let's talk about. Okay, Lionsgate is gearing up to unleash an entire trilogy of new The Strangers movies, and this afternoon we've learned that The Strangers trilogy will be released sometime in 2024. And I'm like, wait, what? Additionally, Lionsgate let us know that a first look is coming to New York Comic Con in October. The brand new official account on Twitter tweets, "Shut your window, lock your door. They are coming. Get your first look at the Strangers trilogy at New York City Comic Con with director Renny Harlin." Are you kidding me? And producer Courtney Solomon on October 12th at 3 p.m. We have no idea what the release strategy is going to end up being for these three movies, but it's interesting that they're being packaged together as the Strangers trilogy. And we assume, based on Lionsgate's tease today, that all three movies will be released next year. And yeah, there's nothing in here about. But here's the weird thing.
That's fine. I just dropped another article that you can go to after.
Okay, great. I'll read it. I'll just read it directly then. Okay. Sure. But based on the original 2008 cult horror franchise, the project features Petch, who drives cross country with her longtime boyfriend Gutierrez to begin a new life in the Pacific Northwest. When their car breaks down in Venus, Oregon, they're forced to spend a night in a secluded Airbnb where they are terrorized from dusk till dawn by three masked strangers.
Mm-hmm.
Renny Harlin of Cliffhanger, Deep Blue Sea, and Die Hard 2 is directing from a script. This is odd that Renny Harlin is doing these movies. These are kind of slasher thriller movies. Do you understand?
Yeah.
I'm used to him doing things like Cliffhanger or Die Hard 2. It goes on to say The Strangers began in 2008 with Brian Bertino's original home invasion horror movie, a terrifying film that introduced three masked killers who returned 10 years later with The Strangers Prey at Night in 2018. The first film took place in a remote house in the woods. It wasn't a remote house, it was a ranch house. Okay, never mind. Well, the sequel brought the murderous man in the masked doll face and pinup girl into a trailer park. This is what's interesting about I actually liked both Strangers movies. Um, I remember being very annoyed by the first one. It had Liv Tyler and Scott Speedman in it, and it took place at a ranch, and it's a '70s style ranch. And I kept thinking, why didn't they just set this movie in the '70s? Right?
Yeah.
Because technology isn't being really used in it anyway. Then I realized later on that what this movie is it's a modern day horror movie, but it has 1970s horror movie accents in it, and that's how it was treated. And when they did The Strangers Pray at Night, it was a modern horror movie with 1980s accents in it.
Yeah.
Whereas you'll hear 80s music in it, or there maybe there's like some old 80s design in the trailer park they're staying at.
And
Do you understand?
personally,
That's interesting.
I
Yeah.
get that. It is interesting, but the back of my mind is saying this is something that should have been a period piece, and they're cheaping out because they don't want to hide the satellite dishes on top of the houses and stuff.
But what's ridiculous about the original movie, it just would have been so easy just to have made it a 70s piece. It's not, it's the whole movie takes place at this old school ranch.
Yeah.
And since the cell phones proved useless in this movie anyway, they didn't even need to be there. I don't know why they did it.
And a bunch of different interviews I've heard very recently with Tom Conkle talking about, Trouble Is My Business and what he did there. Is exactly this idea that there aren't enough people doing good period pieces. And look, if you're going to do a period piece, you got to commit to it. Make sure you get all the details right. And when I see like Adam Savage going and checking out the place where they make the props and stuff, and they have like the cigarettes and stuff, and the details they put into it, because they're just that crazy with the details. It's like, yeah, you gotta do that kind of stuff. His career's been dead since he divorced Gina Davis. Why would anyone divorce Gina Davis?
Maybe she wanted the divorce, who knows?
Well, that would explain it. Yeah.
What I don't understand, I get why they're kind of doing a trilogy, because I guess they're having to reboot this, because if anybody watched, I don't want to spoil The Strangers Pray at Night, but let's just say the strangers finally got what was coming to them.
Yeah.
The strangers are actually very creepy. There are these people that show up at the house, and they're like they ask someone's home, and the girl says, no one lives here by that name. Bye. And it's all weird, and like you can't see their face. And then they wear these weird masks. And my favorite is the girl with the Cupid doll mask. They're actually fairly creepy slasher antagonists. And like they say, why are you doing this to us? Because you were home. It's basically it's a home invasion fear movie.
Yeah.
And now they're bringing it back as a new trilogy.
Yeah.
I'm going to take a wait and see, but I don't get Rennie Harlan directing these.
I love
me as an odd choice.
Jesse Guajardo makes a great point. Here's a dumb idea. Why don't they make it an animated movie? We need more good horror animated films.
Here's the most bizarre thing. You would figure in Japan with anime that they would take a lot of the horror manga or horror books they wrote and make them into anime. Not typical. They usually make them live action when they do the horror adaptations.
And there is something very, especially, I can't speak to the Japanese element, but if you were to do that here in the United States, there's something very off-putting about horror horror elements that are animated. I think, what was the one that we just recently did over on Big Al Presents? Heavy Metal. Heavy Metal's got a lot of great horror elements.
There are horror elements in Heavy Metal. Heavy Metal is just a great movie. I'm sore at myself for not being able to attend that thing, but I'm sure at some point we'll do it on Birdman's channel. But yeah, last horror animation I could think of was Coraline. Coraline's a fantastic movie. If you've not seen it, I highly recommend it.
And that's a great example of using animation. In this case, it was stop motion animation to give you this ought to feel like a kid's production, but when those horror elements come into it, it's that much more,
Yeah, there are, but they really seem to be few and far between. I know that there's a Jun Ito series that's on Netflix I've been meaning to watch, and I know they're adapting his Uzumaki into an anime. So I'm looking forward to that. And that's even going to be black and white, which
Real
is
quick,
cool.
let me drop that last article again because it's already scrolled way up so that we can.
Yeah, let's just get to Thanksgiving already.
Yeah.
It's funny, when I think of Thanksgiving, I think of two movies. I think of Home for the Holidays, and I think of Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. But looks like we're gonna
Exactly.
have now we have a third
Now
Thanksgiving
we have
movie.
a horror movie. Yeah, exactly.
I watched the trailer for this. Actually, let me get the link. Hold on.
No, go ahead and read, and I'll drop the link for the what do you call it? The trailer.
What? Yeah, but let me see if I can get the link. EW.com movies. Can you send the link to my MeWe?
For which?
For the article.
Well,
you know what I can do? Wait a minute. I can go to it from my YouTube channel. Let me go there. This is a boomer moment. They happen. Okay.
I'm not sure which article you're talking about. Are you talking
the
about
EW article?
I'll drop it again here.
No, give me a second. Hold on.
And I could start reading it if you want. The hotel director's new shocker was born back in 2007 as a fake trailer included in Quentin Tarantino and Robert Rodriguez's Grindhouse double feature. This would be not the first movie to get that treatment and end up becoming a real movie.
Right.
Hotel director Eli Roth just unleashed the trailer for his horror movie Thanksgiving, and it's fair to say that it's not what the Pilgrims had in mind when they carved their first turkey. Thanksgiving began life as a fake trailer included in Quentin Tarantino and Robert Rodriguez's 2007 double bill Grindhouse. The clip promoted an imaginary slasher film which appeared to serve up beheadings aplenty, as the voiceover teased. From director Eli Roth, Thanksgiving, you'll come home for the holidays in a body bag. Rodriguez, Edgar Wright, and Rob Zombie also contributed fake trailers for the project. Quentin was like, we're doing this thing called Grindhouse, Roth once told EW. There are going to be 2 60-minute movies. We want some fake trailers and we want you guys to each do one. We're like, F yeah. Rodriguez turned his clip for an action film called Machete into an actual feature in 2010. Roth has long talked about making a real Thanksgiving movie. In February of this year, The Hollywood Reporter revealed that Patrick Dempsey was in talks to star as a sheriff in the film, which was set to start shooting in Toronto the next month. Dempsey co-stars include TikTok celebrity and He's All That star Addison Rae. Roth has also directed Cabin Fever, The Green Inferno, the 2018 Death Wish remake, The House with a Clock in the Walls, which Netter had wanted to see really bad, and the upcoming Borderlands. Thanksgiving is released in theaters in, November. Watch the film's trailer above, and I dropped the link for that as well.
I need to see Thanksgiving in theaters. This needs to happen. I could see it on the Thanksgiving break. I didn't even think about that. I could.
Absolutely. And this is the other thing. I love the idea that these fake trailers in Grindhouse are becoming real movies. It's like I could see, getting my little collection of all the different cuts of Grindhouse and then putting it together with these movies in one little box set.
What's interesting, there was another trailer that was they did a trailer contest. Did you know that? Where someone could submit a fake trailer for Grindhouse, and one was selected. It was called Hobo with a Shotgun. And it was even shown in some of the showings of Grindhouse. They inserted this other fake trailer into there. That was turned into a movie with Rutger Hauer. But,
wow.
And Hobo with a Shotgun was inspired by 80s sleazy crime movies like Death Wish and things like that. And the trailer's really funny. You can catch it online. But the movie was pretty good too, Hobo with a Shotgun. Machete was made into a movie. In fact, it was made into 2 movies. There was even talk of them doing a third one. We'll see if that happens. But we still haven't seen Don't from Edgar Wright. I hope that happens someday. And Rob Zombie's Werewolf Women of the SS. Did you see the trailer for that one?
Yes,
with Nicolas
I did.
Cage as Fu Manchu. Oh no, it's ridiculous. But I remember the original trailer from Grindhouse. Yeah, and it's weird watching this trailer. It doesn't look like the Grindhouse movie version. It looks like it's set in modern times instead of it looking like a late 70s, early 80s movie. It looks good. It just looks cleaner. It almost looks like if they were remaking Thanksgiving, what it would look like if they were remaking it today. Because of course, but I'll check it out. I think. What do you think? Did you like the trailer?
Absolutely. And to be honest with you, again, not just Grindhouse. I'm still eager for the night the reindeer died, starring Lee Majors. I want that movie to happen.
They should do that. It should look like a made-for-TV movie from the '80s with the horrible television transitions.
Yeah.
Like they could put fake commercials in there, like fake '80s commercials for things in there. That'd be funny. I don't know. Just
At this point, they probably have to de-age Lee Majors, but I'd be all for it.
Oh man. Deleted scenes. Yes, Rutger Hauer made that movie work. There were some bizarre made-for-TV Christmas movies, but that'll have to be a good old days someday.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. And we're coming up on the time of year when that should be happening anyway. So,
but looking forward to Thanksgiving. Check out the trailer. It looks entirely reprehensible, which is why I want to watch the movie. Think about it.
Cranberry sauce.
For us Americans, let's be honest here. Thanksgiving is like a very American sacred holiday, right? This is like you don't go after Thanksgiving. I don't think I've seen any slasher movies about Thanksgiving. Maybe there have been, but I've not seen them. And I'm thinking this is like a forbidden territory. Like, go ahead and make your Christmas slasher movie. You leave Thanksgiving alone. And
right.
Like Eli Roth's going there, so I'm curious how it's going to turn out. But that original trailer, though, I'm wondering, like, what's the motivation of the slasher? He's dressed like a pilgrim and he's going around doing horrible things.
I don't know, but
about the psychotic break, what happened there?
Given the article you were talking about previously, or the movie you were talking about previously, The Strangers, I could totally see a Strangers style slasher happening at the holidays, and I could see it all going higgledy-piggledy, people hiding. Uncle Charlie just got killed, and people going, "Oh no, that's a shame, not Uncle Charlie."
You say this, I have an Uncle Charlie. Anyway.
Well, I don't know what your Uncle Charlie's like, but everybody's got that weird uncle that, you gotta invite him because he's family, but he's a mean drunk and he starts talking politics and he, makes creepy comments to the niece.
No, they need to have the scene with the relatives saying inappropriate things at Thanksgiving dinner. They could go either way with either side of the political aisle. Eli Roth would do that too, because he's not. I don't think he's one way or the other. He'll go attack everybody. But he. I think in Green Inferno was environmentalists that end up getting eaten by the cannibals and that.
Connie Cleary and Jesse Guajardo both brought up the movie, Thanksgiving horror comedy movie, Thanksgiving. That sounds interesting.
Thanksgiving rings a bell, so maybe it was done. I need to look into that. Horror comedy called Thanksgiving.
Yeah,
this doesn't even look like a comedy, but it would have.
No, it's gonna be straight on horror. David Pensack brings up the killer is on a mission to rid the world of pumpkin spice flavoring. I could see that. It'd be like kind of a falling down kind of thing. It's just the season just pushes him over the edge, and he's done with it.
See,
and he blows up, kills a bunch of families in their houses, and he gets to one, and they're like, "We're not even serving
turkey. We're a ham family.
We got apple pie this year."
Oh yeah.
Okay, well, I'll let you go then.
oh, I see. Because of the pumpkin.
Exactly.
Okay.
But then he sees the candle, and then he turns and blasts them, or something like that.
I need a good modern slasher movie. I think these may come back. Maybe these stranger movies would be good. I'm just puzzled. Rennie Harlan. It's just odd that he's doing strangers movies. I could see Paul Verhoeven. Could Paul Verhoeven do a slasher movie? Maybe. I don't know.
It's different style, but yeah,
it's just weird. I don't know what to make of this. I like the idea of an Airbnb gone wrong. I think this needs to happen.
I mean, it would kind of come off as a Hostel kind of film, right?
Well, he did Hostel. Eli Roth made Hostel. I
Right.
liked Hostel 1, didn't care as much for Hostel 2, and they are not for the faint of heart or if you don't like torture and stuff like that. In fact, basically, Hostel is about torture.
Yeah,
um,
they're definitely torture prawn. There's no doubt about that.
the idea behind Hostel, though, is that I had the impression from it that there was some little commentary in there about how maybe Americans aren't so liked in other parts of the world.
Yeah,
And like they
yeah.
went for the
You
most money
think
when bidding. And that
the
was sort of
concept "ugly Americans" holds even more true today than it did?
that's what I got from it. And also, of course, playing on American fears of Europe, how oh, it's Europe. We can just go to Europe and nothing will happen. It's like, well, some of us may have ancestry from this place, but
Exactly.
we are not of that place anymore.
That's true.
So it's that weird
Yeah,
culture
all the
shock.
people
Yeah.
that go to Ireland and go, "Yeah, I'm Irish." Yeah, fuck, you're Irish.
Did you ever see the Sopranos episode where Tony and them went to Italy and Paulie is like, he thinks, "Oh, I'm taking back my heritage," and the Italians found him so obnoxious and were
Yeah,
not having it. And
yeah.
just
I
yes,
laughed because I just
yeah,
thought, oh, there's so many Italian Americans that are like that, that if they were to go back to Italy, they'd be confused. And my family's even talked about that. The I've told the joke about some family member going to Italy and asking for the backhouse, and no one knew what the hell they were talking about until they ran into someone who had spent some time in the United States and goes, Bagno. They call it back house in English. And the Italian
oh,
Americans thought it was an Italian word.
oh.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, that's what it. Well, like I said, when your family's over here long enough, you become something else.
Yep. That's
You're kind of a
exactly right.
combo. You're basically a mud of cultures, right? You take the American, the Italian, you mix them together, and just it's its own thing.
And apparently that wasn't enough. Now we got to invent different genders. We got to invent different everything.
Well, I'm sure it'll all end well for us. When is this decade over? This is the clown world decade. We have what, 7 years left?
Actually, when does the American experiment end? I think is the question
I
you're
don't know.
looking
Let's
for.
not be down. Hopefully,
Well, let's
something.
not. Let's start looking ahead to some better things,
Yes.
like for example, Tom Connors from Midnight's Edge After Dark is going to be a guest on the other side of midnight, with deleted scenes, in less than a half hour. So we got, or well, slightly more than a half hour. We gotta get this moving along so that you guys don't miss it.
Yeah, well, we're pretty much done. But what else is going on this week? Wednesday, you can catch me on Soundtracks with Birdman. We'll be doing our annual anniversary stream of Raiders of the Lost Ark. I missed last year's stream because of a certain event that happened,
Yeah, right.
and I'm not quite at the 1 year mark, so who knows what's in store for me in the
Yeah,
coming
who knows
weeks.
what could happen between now and Wednesday,
Yeah.
right?
In fact, we were going to do it a couple weeks ago, and I said I can't. It's another thing. It's another hurricane. But at least my Paramount Plus subscription will be used because it's on Paramount Plus, which I believe is now combined with Showtime. Because of course we said that would happen. 45 minutes or so. Okay, so check that out. Delete Scene channel. Wednesday, Soundtracks with Birdman. Thursday, Netters Network. Thursday's Things.
Yep.
Tea and
Special
Telly with
guest
Maria. We're getting a lot of
Maria
big
from Tea
YouTubers
and
on
Telly.
here.
Absolutely. She gets Maria. I don't get Maria. Maria doesn't have time for me, but she'll go on Netter's Network. So definitely go check that out because that's where you'll find her.
Yeah. And Friday, what's going to be
Friday,
happening?
I'm gonna do a take two attempt at getting Emmy Award winning meteorologist Katie Nicolau back to talk about tropical storm, hurricane, post-tropical cyclone in Dahlia. Find out what all those different things are,
Yeah. And like I said, there's another storm brewing. It's not coming toward me, but we should always talk about that too, right?
maybe Katie will have some insights about that as well. This time for sure. She said she's already set her alarm. Look, the girl works hard. She worked 12 days straight. People don't realize we make fun of professional weather guessers and whatnot, but they work hard. The real meteorologists do. The ones doing the real science do. And she was just coming off a 12-day jag, and she just didn't wake up in time. And I do not fault her for it. I completely understand.
Yeah,
These things happen.
she's good people. You know what she should do? She should do a Stranger Things weather thing sometime. That'd be interesting.
Oh, that's a great idea too. I'll suggest. Well, you suggest that to her when
Maybe
you
I'll
talk
mention.
about
I'm not gonna say. You know, I'll just say if she wants. You know, I'm not gonna.
Well,
me bring
yeah,
that up.
I think that's
That could go over well before the next season comes on. Maybe I don't know.
Absolutely true.
If that season ever gets made, considering how things are
the
going,
way things are going, you're absolutely right.
That was a weird thing where they actually pulled it around in the fourth season. I thought.
Yeah, it was starting to go downhill, but they pulled it back. And
well, season 3 was just ridiculous, and at least. And they even made a couple of jokes like the Paul Reiser card. Yeah, well, apparently when there's a Soviet operation operating in your town that you're supposed to be watching, you get demoted or something. Which
exactly.
But my whole argument was you could have had Russians in there, but they would have been posing as Americans with American accents. It would have been like super spies, right? That's what you would have seen. Not anyway, but whatever. I forgive it. I forgive it because the fourth season was pretty good. And they had some good de-aging stuff in there for
Yep, that was pretty damn impressive. Yeah, maybe Disney could learn a thing or two.
Netter's Network Retro Simina Cobra. Oh, that's a good one.
It is.
Oh, I Birdman and I watched this a little while back. Yeah, Cobra is just it's a wonderful Stallone movie. It's an unsung Stallone movie. I don't know though. As more people discovered, it's getting noticed. It's a violent picture too.
That is absolutely the value of physical media and channels like ours. Doing these talks about older films. Otherwise,
do you want to guest host for Cobra?
Do you want to guest with us?
I can't guarantee I can make it, but if I can, I'll drop in. All right, how's that sound?
That's fair. That's absolutely fair.
I'm tempted to. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes.
Okay then.
If I can, I will. All right.
And that's the week. That's the coming week, guys. So
it's funny. I have both a digital copy of Cobra and a Blu-ray.
There you go. There is a horror series I could recommend, an anime horror series I could recommend.
Another Curse of the Unknown is available in English dub. Okay, I'll look for it. Haven't heard of that one, but I'll look for it. Another great show tonight. Oh, thank you so much. Encouragement is always nice. Also, anyone who's listening, if you're not subscribed, please hit that subscribe button. Hit the notification bell.
Yep.
And like, please. We always like the likes. And be sure to check out Troy Pacelli's channel too, and Netter's Network, and of course Deleted Scenes, who's having a thing in little over a half hour. So take a break and turn in Tom Connors.
Yep.
Always a joy to listen to, especially when he rants. So all right.
Yeah.
All right. I'll catch you later. Y'all have a good week.
Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.